So I have to keep a little mini pop-out window open at all times.
I'm gonna go to my game blast info now. Great.
A little Spiderman. Where have you gone, George?
Right? I'm on my BR back screen. Don't worry about it.
I've just lost you.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
I mean, the bloody captures disappeared now. That's weird.
You didn't just delete it, did you?
You know what I've done?
What?
Just give me a second, guys. It's a professional podcast. Oh, Jesus. I've shrunk the window, like you said, to make it smaller, and it's made your thing like the tiniest little dot ever. I can't get it back. Hang on.
Right click and then
reset transformation.
I'll do is I'll just reset this here, and hopefully it'll make you bigger again. It's not the size of cancer. You just literally a line on my screen now. What the frick have I done? Oh, we better start again, I think, guys. Not start the podcast again, but start my
race.
As if this has to happen. Guys, we were supposed to start this like 20 minutes ago or whatever. I was having problems with my printer, so now I couldn't even print out my stuff. And this podcast has been pushed back so many times as well. Window cap George again.
I know you can't. One second, Grace.
Hey, typical guy. Hey, Alia.
The problem that I've got is that every time I go to mute it, I end up muting my mic, and then it resets it to default for literally no reason.
What's that? What are you talking about?
My mic. My mic always, like, it defaults to...
Okay, I think I've got George back on the screen. As if that had to happen, like, as soon as I start the bloody podcast.
It was exactly after you started.
I load it up, and then suddenly, George has disappeared into a tiny little dot on the screen. I can't get him back.
Magical. Magic.
Alright, so, hopefully you guys can still see me and George. No, you want to check my podcast?
Oh, and the flickering on my side is intentional, by the way.
I've just got to do all the setting up of the stream, and then we'll get going.
Should be Grace.
Because all my tags at Fortnite fashion shows, I'll just leave it as it is, so everyone come in and be like, "What the frick is this?"
I just.
That would be quite funny, to be fair. Double check it, George. Just double check if you can see yourself. Because I remember what happened yesterday when I asked you to double check. You didn't double check, and then no one could hear for the whole stream.
I don't know, bro. You've got a genius.
All you gotta do is click on my stream, bro.
Yeah, but if I do that, everything might die. You know how, like, precarious my goddamn.
We'll be talking about Spider-Man 2. For the 8th. In the shed with Shed. The Shedcast.
So, normally I'd, like, tie it back. But because I think about a couple of weeks ago I shaved this bit of it, and I quite like having. How are you all doing, chat? This is my time to interact with you while Shed's absolutely buggering with himself.
I'm doing tags.
Oh yeah, I didn't bother. I don't bother for the podcast. It's gonna make no difference.
You never know.
Please stop whistling, though.
It's not me, George. It's the owls.
I could see you whistling, you little pissant.
Have you checked whether you're on my screen or not?
Of course not. What do you think I am? Some sort of Gopher?
Sort of wizard.
They got some sort of technical wizard.
Okay, so
All I can see is that you put everything known to man on screen.
that's the point, mate. Alright, can you see yourself now?
This is so much garbage.
Why is it disappearing for? Right, I can read. That's good. That's perfect. I should be able to see it now. We should be good. So, welcome back to another podcast, Professional Streamers. So today,
Stop calling myself that. They're gonna clock on.
They're gonna clock on and mention it. Hang on, does my video go off without? No, I hope not. Yeah. So we are professional streamers, so we should get going. Oh, it's a podcast. Yes, that's what it's called. The Shedcast. You're in the shed with Shed. No, this is actually my house. We just call it the Shedcast.
Welcome to the Shedcast.
So today we're talking about one of my favourite movies as a kid, and in my opinion, probably the best superhero movie of the 2000s. I'd say, by far. What do you reckon, George? What are your thoughts on it?
I forgot about it for a long period of time. To be honest,
I've never forgot this movie because it's always had a place in my heart, man. I was literally the Spider-Man kid. Spider-Man bedsheet, Spider-Man curtains, Spider-Man sticker books. I remember it very vividly, and it definitely holds up today compared to like movies like the Hulk. The Hulk movie, if you go back and watch that, because it's in a comic book style. Have you seen the CGI? They just zoom in on like a sticker. Like this one actually holds up. Like I can still watch it and I never get bored of it. So I just wanted to discuss that first. I think it's a solid film.
Like that, right? Is because that was one of the very like early comic book films. They were kind of get a setting on the style, right?
And plus, like, it's just like everything about it. It's like the perfect superhero film, especially the train scene. Like, it has so many iconic scenes and so many iconic quotes and stuff. And back then, what was this, like 2002, 2003? Around that time.
2004.
If you go back to that time, what did we have? We had X-Men and we had the Hulk, really.
The Matrix had been released.
The Matrix and Deadpool.
Before.
And that's really all that we had, so... In that set of movies, this definitely holds up today. I think what it is, I think it's the gritty nature of the film. You know, like how dark it is and how realistic it is. Like when he gets injured,
do you know what that is?
When he gets injured, his suit tears. You never see that in superhero movies. They always have this like polished superhero suit. Like if they get shot, suddenly the bullet damage is gone. You see these like vigorous tears, like huge tears across his suit, and that's exactly how it would be. You know what I mean?
The reason why is because Sam Raimi was a horror director before he went into other directing, right? So he's got like that backup of realistic.
I think he's a really good director, but I think Spider-Man 3 has definitely tarnished his image. But it's coming back for Doctor Strange, so it's going to be good. Also, Doctor Strange was actually teased in this movie, and also Doctor Mysterio. They mentioned Doctor Strange's name, yeah, but also Doctor Mysterio was also teased, because you know the guy in the theatre was actually supposed to be Doctor Mysterio in a future film. I don't know if you knew that, George.
Really?
It's kind of weird how everything comes back on itself, because Jake Gyllenhaal almost took the part of Spider-Man and replaced him in this movie. Also, Sam Raimi is going to direct Doctor Strange 2, which I think is also going to bring Spider-Man in. And he last referenced Doctor Strange in this movie. Like, it's so weird how that works out. And then Tobey Maguire should be coming back as Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3, I think. I'm not going to, I can't
make it sound like
guarantee it.
It's not like back then they were already planning on making a multiverse. You could tell early doors that they had their sights set on a huge...
I don't think so, George, because Sony is different to Marvel. Marvel wasn't even the thing then. Disney hadn't even bought the rights back then, I don't think. So, and Sony only owned so many characters. Really, they shouldn't have even been able to use Doctor Strange's name.
You can definitely use names, I think.
But yeah, I don't think there was any intention back then. Maybe, I mean, Sony, if you think about it, Sony in those days was the big players. It was Sony, and it was 20th Century Fox with the X-Men. X-Men was kidding it.
And MGM.
So if Sony went to Marvel back then and said, "Oh, can we use Doctor Strange?" I probably would have been able to. But the reason that Sony got their hands on Spider-Man was because, obviously, Stan Lee sold the rights, didn't he, when Marvel was going broke? So Sony acquired it, and they've made their money. They've made their money from it. Just Spider-Man, they've made like $8 billion or something. They've made a crazy amount of money.
Can we just talk about how bad the Amazing Spider-Man is? That entire series is atrocious.
We'll get to that, George. The thing is, I quite like that as well. I quite like it.
I like
but
the
there's
first
some
one.
there's some bits that I don't like.
Okay. Andrew Garfield is not decent.
I think he's a good actor, but I think he's kind of too. It's too cool. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I like it. I can't really bash it. I'm such like a big Spider-Man fan that I really enjoyed the films. What I didn't like about number 2 is I think they went for too much happening again. Like there was 2 villains rather than 1, and the 2 villains didn't even mix together, so it didn't really make much sense. Like they wasn't really on screen together.
A guy in a rhino costume.
Well, yeah, technically 3 villains then, which is what they always do in the third film. They always mess it up, so I'm quite worried about this new one coming out. But what I didn't like about the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is when they killed Gwen as well. For a kid's film to kill Gwen like that was quite horrific to watch that back then.
Her bloody spine, wasn't it?
Literally,
bouncing.
I was going to discuss this later, but Tobey Maguire, and every time someone falls off a building, he grabs them with his web. Are you telling me?
And they would die.
Are you telling me that Tom Holland?
In real life, they'd die.
Tom Holland couldn't swing down and scoop her up like Tobey Maguire did with Aunt May and Mary Jane in these films. Like he just swings the web.
We
like
talk
he's
about realistic physics.
in reality,
Realistic
yeah.
physics.
But we're talking about comic book
spines
films.
Will be snapped in every time.
So therefore,
even when
George.
you see Batman catching
So
someone,
therefore,
when
you
see
should.
Superman catching someone, then you go. They always should be like snapped in half.
So
bro.
therefore, George, you should actually prefer that series then, because you're saying, "Oh, I like the fact that they snapped someone in half."
Yeah, no, I do. I like that. That was so realistic, but I just don't like the way that.
Yeah, but for like a
Andrew Garfield
15,
plays
like a
Spider-Man.
15-year-old. I like his
Wasn't
Spider-Man.
it because there was too much like spring in the thing, and then just suddenly hit the floor or whatever?
I like his Spider-Man. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 as well. The Amazing Spider-Man 1 was solid.
Yeah, I like that.
And they did the
That was
lizard
the
really
only one I
well.
liked.
I think also in this film, correct me if I'm wrong, you only watched this like an hour ago, didn't you? So, the Professor, he had one arm missing, didn't he? Could that also be a foreshadowing a lizard? In one of the scenes, he has one arm. I don't know whether it's just like you can't see his arm properly and it's like folded like that, but it looks like he has one arm missing. I might be wrong, but that just caught my eye.
You're definitely wrong. He always has 2 arms. And before we get actually into like the breakdown of the goddamn
whenever you ever had to say that in any other context, he definitely has 2 arms.
Listen, that man is not a one-armed bandit. Second of all, why the hell would you make this sun-looking thing and be like, I know, and I put some arms on me, bro? What are you playing at? You bloody make a goddamn.
I think what it is, George, is he's trying to make. He's trying to make like.
Need to like. Put
It's trying to make
thing in your back and go.
It's trying to make renewable energy.
You know, like,
I don't know why the arms are there. I mean, I guess if you think about it, it's
Why
making the arms so that he can touch. Is it like gamma radiation or something? It's some kind of radiation that you can't touch with human hands, so he's made these mechanical arms.
Don't need to attach it to you. If it, like he's like, oh, using my brain power. Yeah, sure.
The
Put
thing
that,
is,
make
they
it
don't
Wi-Fi.
really
Wi-Fi enable that motherfucker.
they don't really explain it, do they? Like what he's actually doing. They just say, "Oh, it's my dream," and then suddenly he's building this thing, and he's got like loads of tentacles. But can I just say the CG on those tentacles for a film that was made in the 2000s?
Do you know why it's so good?
It's really good.
I was gonna go into it later.
We'll go into it later.
They're actually there.
We will go into it later. Well, let's follow my script anyway, because I spent a long time writing this. Okay, so I also wanted to do earlier, like, who's the best Spider-Man? Who's the best Aunt May? Who's the best
I've
villain?
already written it. I've got it.
That's going to be good. I'm not going to put it on screen now because we can't be bothered, but we don't have the budget for it. Have you seen the look of our podcast? We ain't got the budget, mate. We asked them. We rung up head office. We said, "Can we have a bigger budget?" They said,
Mine
"No."
looks Mine looks swish. Mine looks.
George, you have
sleek and
one
polished.
thing on the screen.
Yours looks like someone's thrown a packet full of Spider-Man cards, and you've just seen. Oh, this is. Here we go.
To be honest, I have actually gone back and bought some Spider-Man stickers, and I've been filling in my old sticker book from like when I was 10. That's how boring. That's how boring lockdown's got for me. To be honest, though, it'd be really good. Was it you were saying sticker bomb and something?
Yeah. That's what
So I could take those stickers and I could literally put loads of Spider-Man stickers on it. Okay, so I've got written down, why was Spider-Man 2 the greatest superhero movie of the 2000s? So firstly, I wrote down.
Question.
No, George, we can't do it like that. We have to go into it.
Aww,
So firstly,
okay.
it was a sequel. Now, name another instance where the sequel is better than the first one. This is, in my opinion, this is definitely the best out of the trilogy. Number one is really, really good, and it does hold a place in my heart. Like, it's up there, but like this one is just so perfect.
The new one for me is better.
Which one?
The like.
Tom Holland is a really good Spider-Man.
New Spider-Man.
Tom Holland is a really good Spider-Man.
Like, I'm on about the second film. The second film of that franchise is still really great.
Yeah, I like that one as well. Like, I really like that film. I like all the Spider-Man, so I can't really. I was gonna write why it's the best superhero movie or why it's the best Spider-Man, but I think you can't really judge it against those films because this was made in a very different age. I say that there's only like 15, 20 year difference, but still,
that makes a huge difference though in technological
in the
advancements.
2000s, like even the suit, like how bold is that suit? That's probably one of the best suits, one of the best superhero suits I've ever seen. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You know, the black, the silver latex and the black latex on the front of the suit. It's just so eye-catching. It's literally like looking at a comic book.
Design.
You know what I mean? and then I went on to say, like, I was discussing other sequels and think about like 40. How, you know what I mean?
I hated Dark Age.
Like,
was that Dark Ether or whatever it was?
Dark Ether. Yeah, it's that bad. It was the Dark World. For the Dark World. That was a bad sequel.
Yeah, that was atrocious. Actually, I'm saying that. It wasn't that bad. It just.
Oh, Leighton donated. Thank you, Leighton Edwards. Tom Holland Spider-Man drunk Liam is the best there. Thanks, bro. Where was you during the charity stream, man? Watch that.
Where was you?
Gonna help us get that £17 up that we raised. Alright, so that's what I'm saying. Like, most people always agree that the first one's better. Do you agree with me that this is better than the first? What is your opinion?
Well, they definitely had some advancements in technology. I mean, I say that, but like I'm
talking about like in terms of story. Like this is a really solid story, and the pacing's perfect.
Straight from one, they went straight from filming the first one to filming the second one. There was like a week between them.
Yeah,
and that meant that they could like cohesively fit those two together. And then there was like I think like a couple of months between that and the third one. And the third one
even the posters, man, like the Spider-Man posters during the 2000s. Wow, they were just amazing. Spider-Man 1, he was like climbing vertically down a building, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
And then what was this poster? They were really good posters.
It was either him swinging or him split in half.
Yeah, it was a swinging. It was swinging a web, but it just looked incredible, man. Like the lighting and everything on the posters got me hyped up. They don't really do posters like that anymore. It's completely changed the way that the graphic design.
Yeah, the way they do them now is they put all the characters on, and then
they just had loads and loads of special effects on the posters. This didn't really have many.
Oh yeah.
It looked like it was literally just like mainly a photo shoot, a photo shoot and put on the back of a building. But to make it look so good, you're talking 15 years ago with that technology as well. That's what I'm saying. Even the graphic design stuff is just incredible. So yeah, then I went on to say, you know, it's really hard to capture the magic of the first one because originals, people always agree that those are the best. You know what I'm saying? And then I put the suit is so bold. We've already discussed this, but it was a very advanced movie costume and it still holds up today. I'll put that in the realm of like Henry Cavill's Superman costume. Like its look and feel, it's like that kind of style. And I mean, Andrew Garfield also has its.
It could be made.
Andrew Garfield also has its own like good qualities to it, and so does Tom Holland's. So, I mean, they're all good costumes, but this one is just like, especially for back then, I think it was brilliant. And then I put Dr. Octopus is a very believable villain in this film, I think. Because he has got a good motive. I mean, when you think about it,
you say that, but let's talk about him strapping some bloody arms to him for
George,
no reason
but what I'm saying is, he's obviously a scientist. It's gone a bit wrong. He's not fully in control of his mind. That's what I'm saying. It's believable because he's not in control. And at the end of the movie, and parts of the movie in between, you see his real character. You know, when he's talking to Peter and he's discussing the poetry and stuff, you realise that's not really him. He just wants to do something good. You know, to advance science. You know what I mean? He also says, there's a couple of quotes in there. I think he says, not with great purpose, great responsibility, but I've got it written down somewhere. Oh yeah, he says, he speaks to Peter about intelligence, and he says it's a gift to be used for the good of mankind. Like, in the start of the film, you see that he's actually a good guy, and you see that these arms are taking control of him. God knows how these arms have got that much AI in that they've become sentient. I don't know how that works.
Well, they literally if they foreshadow it early on.
Like you say, he could have just literally made himself an Iron Man suit with the amount of technology he's using there.
Like, he could have made the arms from Iron Man. Do you know where the little thing is controlling the... That's all he needed. He didn't have to strap it to his goddamn brain.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird because basically the arms are the villain. If you think about it. I don't think there's any other villain that has been mind-controlled by building something for themselves. That makes sense. It's kind of a weird way to put it. But I mean, in recent superhero movies, it's normally the villain that goes and mind controls somebody else, like Loki with his staff. It's not normally like, say if Tony Stark created Iron Man, he just turned into a villain, like Obadiah Stane, and the suit just starts controlling him and killing everyone. But yeah, I think he's believable because you get to like him, and then he puts those arms on. You realise that it's not fully him, but he completely changed his character. And Alfred Molina's, I think his name. It's
after the
is it Alfred Molina?
Chip.
I think it is Alfred Molina.
It's definitely Molina. I don't.
Yeah,
know
the inhibitor chip breaks, doesn't it? That's why the arms have took control.
Why would you put it in a highly viewable place?
Literally
on your neck.
Why are you going to make the inhibitor chip? Why are you going to make the inhibitor chip so, like, what would you call it now? So vulnerable. It's actually like a little LED.
Yeah. It's just an LED. Like,
put it in some kind of like box that cannot be attacked by electricity or something. You know what I mean? Like, make it safe so you don't get bloody electrocuted and then turn into a bloody octopus killing monster. Yeah, but I just think it just makes sense. Like, and his acting. Yeah. It makes sense, but it makes sense, but it's kind of silly in a kind of comic book way. You know what I mean? And Alfred Molina, I think that's his name. He's such a good actor, and I can't wait for him to come back because he is confirmed for Spider-Man 3.
It's his caterpillar eyebrows that get me, man. The cat's eyebrows.
He's confirmed for Spider-Man 3. Oh, that's really? On paper. Spider-Man 3. You got Alfred Molina as Doc Ock. Electro. I think Tobey Maguire
he looked like a young Go-Compare
Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, I think, have been confirmed as well. But potentially the Green Goblin might be coming back, George. Potentially the Green Goblin as well. I think they're doing Sinister Six.
Always a cool character.
I think Sinister Six might actually work in this film because we got 3 Spider-Men, so it's not just like one Spider-Man versus 6 villains. You know what I mean? Kind of unbelievable. Yeah. You know, it's not as believable. But I can't wait to see him in action again. He must be getting a lot older now, though, because this has been like 20 years. So he looks about 50 in this film.
He was born in 1953.
Wow, 1953. Mm-hmm. Is that like 67?
Yep.
If I got that wrong, it's just going to make me look like I can't count. And then we got the train scene, which is obviously my favourite superhero moment of all time. The way the public defend him and they all stick up for him, that's just like incredible. That almost brings a tear to your eye. How they all step up and try and take on the villain because they can see that Spider-Man's injured and he's been saving the city for so long, and they're just like, if you're gonna pick on him, you gotta go through me. And you see Joey Diaz and young Joey Diaz step in front of him. You know what Joey Diaz is?
There is.
Do you know
no
Joey
train
Diaz?
Station.
George,
No.
you don't know Joey Diaz? He's a stand-up comedian. He's got really popular lately. He's a friend of Joe Rogan's. He's so funny. Seeing him in this film though, like going back and watching it, seeing Joey Diaz there and being like, oh, it's Joey Diaz, that just makes it even better. He's also in The Longest Yard. You know Adam Sandler? George. Hello.
I don't like Adam Sandler as an actor.
Why did it take you so long to say that? You know I don't have the camera on the screen because I'm reading from Word. And you just go so quiet. I'm like, what is going on? And then 10 minutes later, oh, I don't like Adam
I was pulling
Sandler.
faces at the camera, bro.
Talk to me, man.
Do you know the thing is? The thing is, that train, there is no overground metro in Manhattan.
Yeah, but this is a fictional
Like,
Manhattan, George.
But what I'm saying is that entire scene was CG.
I was going to talk about that as well because it also has been done again in other Spider-Man movies. So in Tom Holland's with the boat,
He pulls the
the boat, pulling the boat together.
The boat, and then there's the buildings in the second one.
Well, for me, I don't know the buildings.
Yeah, he in Andrew Garfield's one, I think he holds the buildings together.
Not sure about
I
that.
remember.
I will say one of my favourite moments from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man era is when all the cranes come together and then he shoots across the he webs things across the cranes.
They do that in this, don't they? In this
Maybe
one,
Spider-Man
the
3, potentially.
The original 3.
But I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Because that's where they got the idea from.
I think they got the idea from all the Spider-Man games because they always put cranes in there. And that's always one of the fun things to do. So what else did I say? Yeah, the theme music. This has to be the best Spider-Man theme tune, surely. Gone quiet.
I mean, you got the Chinese lady on the violin is my favourite part of that.
I don't mean that, George. I mean when it comes on and the Marvel credits roll. You know, the classic Marvel logo with the comic book pages. And it's like
the original cartoon version.
It's like
that one. I like that one compared to the cinematic version of this one.
I really like it. I really like the theme tune. And then obviously, as you say, you got the Spider-Man does whatever the spider can.
That is one of my favourites. If we talk about soundtracks,
people in the chat being like, what's going on?
The best.
We're doing a podcast.
Spider-Verse is at the best.
Someone's asking about Godzilla King of Monsters. That could be something we could discuss in the future. But yeah, we're doing Spider-Man at the moment.
Maybe.
What was you saying, George?
I was saying, compared to all of the other Spider-Mans, the Spider Family, Into the Spider-Verse.
The Spider-Verse.
Soundtrack. Spider-Verse, yeah, that makes more sense.
Well, I mean, Spider-Verse has been called arguably one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time, and it is a solid movie.
It's not arguably, it is the best Spider-Man movie of all time.
I don't know. I'm not 100%. I do love that film, but I think I'd have to give it another watch and give them all another watch and go into depth with it, I think. Maybe that's something we can do.
Yeah, no, I Spider-Verse.
But for an animated movie, that was brilliant because I don't normally watch animated movies these days. Because, like, you know, when you get older, and, you know, you're not as into animated stuff. I know in this day and age, a lot of people are because anime and stuff. But I was like, oh, that's for kids. I'm not going to watch it. I put it on, and I was just glued to the screen, man. I was like, this is brilliant. Like, the writing and,
it's a really great film.
You know, how it's filmed. The Post Malone soundtrack, Sunflower, brilliant. Everything about that is just perfect. It's like a love note to Spider-Man. Or a love letter to Spider-Man, basically.
Great,
yeah, it's really good. And I think that also reflects the comic books best, I think.
Yeah,
But that's why I can't wait for this new
representation,
Spider-Man,
right?
because it's basically happening because of that, really, isn't it? Because that did so well.
Yeah.
And I think that made a lot of money for an animated film. I did grow up with the Spider-Man animated series though. I used to love that as a kid.
I was more
On
of a Batman.
Jetix.
I always watched Batman, Spider-Man.
And then I put the special effects because they were incredible, as we said, for the time. You're thinking about
really
Hulk.
do many.
Yeah, but
like the stuff that they did was
even the mechanical arms and
probably
everything,
was-
like it was so. I think it was
they
really
weren't
good.
special effects. They were practical. A lot of them were puppets. So people were wearing like the green morph suits or the blue morph suits, and they were controlling like these huge metal arms. So that when
I was wondering
when
how
there
they
were
filmed
CG versions, they
that
had the
final
original.
scene where he's holding up the building,
It's,
like half the glass pane. Did they just
Digi-double.
like
Digi-double.
put like a piece of wood? He was holding up a piece of wood, and then they just like photoshopped it in.
Oh, well, when Spider-Man's
When
on
he's
it.
actually holding it all up. You know what I don't get
think
about
it's
that
a
though?
set- it's-
He's saying this is really heavy to MJ, and then 2 minutes later he just throws it across the thing.
No, you realize why, right? Because all of the metal is being pulled into the thing, so it literally
Oh.
just ends up being a plank of wood or whatever. That's when he throws it.
I didn't see it
So,
like change shape. I literally watched it like half an hour ago, and I didn't see the metal
It
change
changes
shape. I
It
think
changes
I
shape.
thought
That's why it's only
I
like
thought
square.
maybe when he was talking to MJ and she realised it's him, and she was like, "Oh, so you really do love
He
me?"
gets that,
And
that
he's just
power
like,
boost.
and he's just like, "Yes, I do." And then he's like,
Yeet.
"That's what I
Yeah,
thought it was."
Nah, it's not. It just changes shape. You just don't notice it as much. Like I was specifically looking for stuff like that because I know that you.
I
miss a
thought
lot
you,
of
I
my
thought you
best
might be.
detail.
That's exactly why I put that in, because I thought George should have something to say about that. I know Spider-Man 1 had really good special effects as well. That was another groundbreaking movie for special effects, because you had a lot of like explosions and stuff
So
back then, and
I've
that was
written
really
a lot
realistic.
down about special effects for this movie in particular. It's a
Yeah.
lot of all of the sets are either miniatures or 3D scans or. actual
It's
footage
really
plates.
hard to do like miniatures though, isn't it, and make them realistic? Because have you watched? Is it Fast and Furious
It's the
7?
camera.
Fast and Furious 7. Have you seen that? Where they've got two little,
Well, the issue is
no,
no,
like
it's the parallaxing of the camera.
two little Hot Wheels cars, and then they just plonk it into the scene. You see like Vin Diesel and Paul Walker's characters, and they're in this like warehouse. There's two little tiny like Matchbox cars just on like a sandy. It just looks like something you made in your bedroom, George, and they just put that into the
Well,
film. I thought this is like a $1 billion
the
franchise.
issue with that is, there's like a couple of things that go wrong with miniatures.
Mm.
There's parallaxing of the lens, which is something which you'll notice in.
But this movie does it really well, because I didn't even think it was miniatures. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even
They're
notice.
miniature, but they're not like super miniature. They're like stages.
Mm.
But compared to the size they would be, they are still classed as miniatures.
Well, what
Um,
points in the movie use miniatures then?
A lot of it actually. Some of the train scene uses miniatures. A lot of the when the sun is being made, that entire stage.
You
is a
keep saying the
miniature.
sun, George. It's not really the sun, is it? It's a ball of
It's
energy.
what it's based on. It's what it's based on, though. That
It
is,
just
like,
happens
what's
to look
behind the
like the
scenes,
sun.
That's what they based it on.
It just happens to look
No,
like
it's
the
what
sun.
they based it on.
It's called trinium,
It
isn't
doesn't
it?
happen to look like the sun.
It's called
Yeah,
trinium.
but it doesn't happen to look. It doesn't happen to look like the sun. They
I was
took
thinking.
the script.
I was thinking.
Like they took the script.
The
and they were
perfect-
like, oh,
the
he
perfect
says he has
thing-
The power of the sun.
The perfect thing to make that scene better is when he's sinking under the water. That trinium creates a ripple and breaks the multiverse. I think Wanda's going to break the multiverse, and then all the Spider-Men are going to come through, and all the villains. But what if at that
Realise
point when
that
he's sinking
entire
to the
scene,
sea?
that entire scene where he's sinking, right, is CG. That's a digi-double.
Yeah, but I'm saying like
That's
they're going to
through
bring.
facial
It's
scans.
confirmed that he's going to be in the new Spider-Man. So why not, when he sinks to the sea, why couldn't that be the point where he's pulled into the multiverse?
You never know. Maybe they might retcon it and do that. Like,
I think that would be perfect, because you don't actually see him die.
no, and you don't.
Everyone
ever see anyone
says
die in Spider-Man, really.
that he's dead, or it's been said that he's dead, but you don't see him die. Yeah, you just see him sink. So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking to
Then
myself
again,
earlier, like
that could
how-
just be because it is a kids' film.
I was thinking to myself earlier, like how do they bring him into the multiverse if he's dead, but we don't see him die? So that would be the perfect point if when the universe breaks, which I think Wanda's going to do with the Hex. You've not seen it, have you? But she's doing some crazy stuff, man, with chaos magic. She's basically gone full Scarlet Witch. And
this has made me like get back into researching. This has got me back into like comic book stuff. So I'm really looking forward to Loki.
we should have watched number one because I got a story about number one. Like the reason Spider-Man's so important to me is because me and George are both art students. I got master's degree in art, and the first Spider-Man movie is what got me into drawing and art in the first place. Seeing him draw that suit just made me want to get the pencils out and draw when I was like, like 5 years old or whatever. I don't know about you, George.
Like Batman did that for me. Like I really like to draw that in the Batman style. The guy that doing the Batman.
I do remember like drawing Batman books as well, like copying the books and drawing.
I really enjoyed.
The Batman I remember drawing.
The
The Batman I remember drawing was he had an orange costume for some reason. I think I used to have this old Batman. No, I used to have this old Batman figure, and he used to be orange and white. I don't know what universe that Batman's from, but that's just it's not got anything to do with anything. But I can't even see what faces you're putting. I just know you're putting faces. This is the problem with reading off Word because I can't see anything George is doing, man. He could just be licking the camera or something while I'm sitting here
the
talking.
thing that made me really recently get back into art was Spider-Verse. I really liked the art style in Spider-Verse.
When did you watch it? Because I watched it like about 6 months ago.
I watched it when it first came out, and that like pushed me into a more graffiti style for a bit, and then I've slowly come back away from it, only to then go and watch it again and sort of be like, I really like this style again. You know what I mean? Like I go through phases of artistic style.
Yeah. So I've gone through the film scene by scene, so we can talk about it scene by scene now. I know you love this, George. I think in future we should just do specific scenes, but I've done it scene by scene in this one. So what I like as well is at the start of the film is talking about Mary Jane and how she's the girl he can never have, and like how being a superhero, that's his burden and he doesn't want to bring people into it. And then it cuts to him being in his pizza delivery really job. Nice. It's the way it cuts scenes.
That's what I was gonna
It's
say.
it's so funny because 1 minute he's talking about that, he's getting really serious about his love life, and then suddenly he's on a bike delivering pizzas.
That's Raimi, right? It's because he's done horror and horror comedy.
What makes me laugh as well is why would Mary Jane want to go out with him when he's just delivering pizzas and she's dating this guy who's like a aerospace engineer or something. Astronaut and got loads of money and she wants to date Peter Parker, but that's the thing, they've been in love since they were kids, haven't they? That's what you get from it, and they're living next door. And what also made me laugh is the fact that Peter's actually kissed her and she doesn't even know because of Spidey kissing number one. How weird's that?
Which you see later on where she tries to redo that with Mr. Astronaut himself.
Does she? I don't think I've seen that.
She has him lay on the sofa and she has him lay on the sofa and like look up, and then she tries to recreate.
I think she might have got like a sense, because like girls can sense things like based on smell and stuff and taste and that. Maybe she. Somehow realizes that that's the same person.
Spider-Man probably just smells of latex and sweat. Let's be real.
Shut up, George. Oh, that's the next episode of our podcast. Latex and sweat. Yeah, so the fact that Peter has so many jobs as well shows that being a superhero can often be a burden. Because like when you think about superheroes, we always think of these perfect people, like back in the 70s and 80s with like Christopher Reeve's Superman and Tony Stark and all these people. We always think of them having perfect lives, but this flips that.
Because they don't get brand deals. They need brand deals. Where's the Spider-Man cereal?
But this flips that, and it's like, Spider-Man's not perfect. And as a kid, to give you that sense of realism is quite helpful.
Well, the thing is, it's not that he's not perfect. It's that he can't balance his life, right?
Yeah,
especially
but
when he's at school and his grades are slipping.
But when you get older, you realise that is a genuine thing. It's very hard to do, balancing your life. When you're a kid, you got all these hours in the day, and then when you get older, you got like so many responsibilities, just like we see Peter having there. And it's like it is a sense of realism. You know what I mean? you don't often see in these kind of comic book movies. And that was Stan Lee's vision.
Okay,
That was Stan Lee's vision. Let me just talk about Stan Lee's vision, George.
Okay, let's talk about Stan Lee.
So Stan Lee wanted to make superheroes that had their old issues in their life. You know what I mean? He didn't want to make superheroes that are perfect people because he said that wasn't a very good way of storytelling and people couldn't connect to him. So that's why he created Spider-Man, because Spider-Man was meant to be a teenager who has all these burdens and all this schoolwork, and he still goes out, you know, being Spider-Man, and it's finding that balance in his life, you know, so.
Which he doesn't do, even until like later on, when it like even in the third film, I don't think it really has that work-life balance.
That's the funny thing. They should just call this Spider-Man the work-life, the work-life balance trilogy. Brand deals.
No, but he does. Yeah, like he shows up for photos and stuff, and you remember in like the newer one he does as well. Like he'll I think it was in Andrew Garfield's. He goes to a place for a photo shoot and collect the key of the city and stuff. Like,
look, okay, put in the chat. Oh God, Shed can hold the train. I don't remember him doing brand deals in number 3.
I can't remember.
Maybe as Spider-Man. I think they give him the key to the city, don't they?
As Spider-Man.
Which is another thing that Superman does. But basically, what I'm trying to say is, Stan Lee wanted to create characters in the comic books that had their own troubles and they overcome them. Because a perfect person is never... You know, it's not very good storytelling. No one likes someone who's fully perfect because everyone has their own issues and troubles. Even in adulthood, you know, you learn that as, you know, a genuine thing. You know what I mean? I keep saying, you know what I mean. I don't know why I keep saying it.
Do you know what I mean?
What we got going on in the chat? George is Doc Ock. Yep. Somehow you fit perfectly into that role, man. You should definitely do a Doc Ock cosplay. Shed the man. Plays whatever game he can. Shed the man. Plays whatever game he can. With brave.
They've not even noticed me in that same thing of you holding the train. They've not noticed me here.
I didn't notice you. I looked at it earlier. I didn't notice until I copied it to the bloody Streamlabs. And I was like, bloody hell, that is actually scary because you just blend in so well. Especially with my camera hiding where you've cut the face.
So good.
That's what you look like, George, an old train instructor. That's what you're going to look like when you're like 50, man.
Well, the thing is, the original picture doesn't look anything like that because he's looking down. Like, by masking it with the face, you can't see where he's supposed to be looking anyway, so it always fits.
Do you get what I'm saying, though? Like, he's got his own issues. I feel like in the other Spider-Man, they don't have as much responsibility. They're just in high school, aren't they? They're a lot younger. This is basically adult Spider-Man, and they're progressively getting younger. Even though the actors themselves are like 35 or something. Tom Holland is younger. Can we just talk about Tom Holland as well doing Uncharted, because he looks amazing in these set photos? Have you seen him? They've like almost aged him up.
About them making an Uncharted film.
If they do it right, it's going to be perfect. But Tom Holland has come out and said that he wasn't 100% happy with his acting in it, because he said that sometimes we focus on looking cool rather than playing the character, which that just shows how good of an actor he is. Like, he's serious about his craft, because to come out and be that honest, that's why, you know, he's such a good actor to play Spider-Man, because he's taken on that responsibility and he's doing his best, and when he messes up he actually talks about it, which I think people will, you know, they'll love him for
that's why. I'll tell you why I'm not happy about it.
Why?
Because it's bloody what's his face?
Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah,
Mark Wahlberg.
Sully doesn't work.
I can imagine it, but they got to tint his hair grey.
They haven't. They've left it. I've just looked at the pictures, the set pictures. He does not make a good Sullivan. Mark Wahlberg does not.
Let's talk about one of the infamous scenes next, George. When we finish talking about Mark Wahlberg. It's probably your favourite scene in the movie, to be honest.
Which one?
Where he saves the kids, and then he leaves the pizza on the balcony, and the man's about to eat a piece of the pizza, and he slings the web and grabs it out of his mouth. And then somehow he ends up in a cupboard. How did he get in the cupboard? Why didn't he use the door?
Well, you have to change, didn't he? You have to change.
Yeah, but the receptionist is just looking at him like... The receptionist is just looking at him like, what the fuck, man? How's he got in the cupboard? Why is the pizza guy in my cupboard? I didn't even see him come in.
Yeah.
He's just sorting out the cupboard, putting all the mops and stuff away. She's like, what the hell? Where's this guy come from?
Yeah, Tom's a little guy, right? And he's fallen into the mop room.
That's another funny thing about this Spider-Man, is Peter Parker in these movies is so clumsy and nerdy. It's just hilarious. And then when he's Spider-Man, he's doing all these crazy things, and then he can't even, like, you know, sort out a cupboard. You know what I mean? I said it again. Let's have a... Do you know what I mean? Counting the side.
I think we're on about 7 by now.
17. But yeah, the newer Spider-Mans...
It's tricky, right?
Because there's too many now.
It already is. Spider-Man is...
Spider-Man
is plural.
Well, the newest Spider-Man are a lot cooler. Their personalities are a lot cooler. The thing is, in the comics, he is supposed to be a bit nerdy and a bit cool. So I think Tom Holland does have the perfect balance. Whereas Andrew Garfield is the cool one, and Tobey Maguire's the nerdy one. And then Tom Holland's like a amalgamation of them both. Just which is
why I
perfect.
quite like him as Spider-Man. He's like my...
When he first became Spider-Man, I wasn't sure. Because, like, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. And every time you get to, like, 2 or 3 films... They just they just recast the actor. But if they're going to do Spider-Man 3, how it's being portrayed, and it's going to be 3 Spider-Man, then that is just going to be... That's like a dream come true for me, man. Like seeing all those guys on screen together.
That should be more than 1 film.
It does feel like that. But
if
they do Spider-Verse, though...
Spider-Verse feels like it could have been longer.
If they do Spider-Verse, though, George, it doesn't have to just be 1 film, as you say. Because if you just see little cameos of these guys in this film... And then in the next Spider-Man, Spider-Man 4, there's a bigger threat. And then Doctor Strange brings us back through the portals. Because Doctor Strange is also in this movie, Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
And it also connects to, like, Doctor Strange too. So, that, there could be a bigger threat. And I think No Way Home as well. Not that this has anything to do with Spider-Man 2. But No Way Home is them either hinted at Tom Holland... being stuck in the multiverse, or the other 2 Spider-Men being stuck in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I've got a feeling they might kill Tobey Maguire, which I don't know. That's going to be painful. That's going to be like a Tony Stark death, because think about that. That's how. Say you go to watch it with your kid, like all the dads are going to be crying, man, because that's their Spider-Man dying.
The thing is, there doesn't seem to be like a death, a full stop death in Marvel at the minute. Tony Stark is supposed to be coming back in.
The only person they've killed is Quicksilver. Quicksilver and Iron Man, but they always try to bring people back.
He's still alive.
But it's Disney, isn't it? It's Disney.
Well, like
Marvel's not stupid though. They realise that once they kill people,
Black Widow's coming back.
Yeah, they're not stupid. They realise that you should never shut the door on a character, because that's money making. Squeeze every penny, man.
Like in the Loki trailer, you see Black Widow just chilling on a spaceship.
Do you?
Are
you sure?
Yeah, she's in like a split. There's a frame of it. Yeah.
I'm really excited for that. Do you realise that if you look at Disney Plus's schedule, there's not
looks really great.
There's not a week where we don't have some kind of new Marvel show or movie.
We've got like a phase 4, like Marvel, like 4 or
like
5
whole year,
a
whole year, or like 5-year plan. But the Disney Plus, so like WandaVision runs from now till next week. Well, from like 8 weeks ago to next week, and then we have Captain America. Not Captain America, but it's the Winter Soldier and Falcon, basically Captain America
and the Falcon
type show. And then we have Loki.
And it's Loki.
And then
there's something else which I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to go on after that. But also, slotted in between is the making of. I just realised, George, we've missed a trick, because what we should be doing is, like, every time a WandaVision episode comes out, we should discuss it, because it's really big right now. We should start doing that on the new episode.
I've still not seen it.
It's brilliant, man. It's brilliant.
I know. Like the idea of it alone reminds me of Legion. That was my favourite TV show when it came
What he's got us doing in the chat, man, he's just trying to think of like Spider-Man theme tunes from all of us. This is one George the Turkey George.
Did you watch Legion?
No.
Oh man, it was so good. Legion is one of my favourite. It's like mutant powers, so it's X-Men based. It's so.
I've never
good.
watched
You
that,
should
but
honestly watch Legion.
I think I heard something about Professor X's son being in it, who's like a mutant.
Yeah, that's him.
But he
That
turns
is Legion.
bad though, doesn't it? And in the comics, it's like an actual thing that happens as well.
He doesn't turn bad. I think he
His powers are like
multiple
uncontrollable.
personalities.
Yeah.
Personality disorder. Yeah.
You know, like Glass, basically. The Glass movie.
Yeah, it's really good. You should watch it when you get time. It's so.
I've noticed that every time we do these podcasts, we pick a specific theme, but we tend to go on tangents
And we
and
just
speak
go
about
off.
every single thing we've
We've
ever.
been here an hour
thought.
and we've not talked much about Spider-Man 2.
I'm getting to it, George. Don't worry. Alright, so then we go on to being in Jonah's office. It's a good job that I do these bits of like scene intros, because otherwise we would just be talking about everything. You know, me and George, that's just how we are, I guess.
I love that Jonah's coming back. I like that
Yeah,
he's
the
back
fact
in
that they've
Spider-Man.
weaved him into Spider-Man 2 of Tom
know,
Holland's
it made me so
Spider-Man was
happy.
so perfect. Just seeing that at the end of that movie. And then it's
Just
like,
sad they
you
didn't
know, it's
I'm
like
just
then
sad
you
they
know
didn't
there's
do
going to be
famous laugh.
multiverse. Because he discusses multiverse in Spider-Man 2, which, you know, Mysterio was like, oh yeah, nah, that's not a thing. He's like, that's all fake or bullshit, whatever. What is it that he says, George? It's something along those lines, isn't it?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched it. I've got to rewatch Far From Home.
When I think he thinks it's the multiverse, but then I don't know whether it's Mysterio or Fury says like it's not a thing. And then we find out that obviously Mysterio's been controlling everything.
Yeah.
But then at the end we see obviously Jonah Jameson on the screen, but this time he's doing a YouTube video. So that's how he's projecting
good,
the news. Spider-Man, you're a menace.
So good.
His character is timeless, man.
He's so funny.
He's not changed one bit though.
That laugh.
He's not changed a single bit, George.
So funny.
He's not changed,
I
has
know.
he? It's a perfect character.
He's gone bold.
You know who he
He's gone
reminds
bold
me
and
of?
that's it.
Is it Superman Adventures, Lois and Clark? You know, the guy who works in the office?
Yeah.
Oh, I lost, yeah. Probably lost. Alright, so we
Lost
go
me.
to
I'm
Jonah's
agreeing, I'm
we
agreeing.
go to Jonah's office. You agree, but you don't know what I'm talking about. We go to Jonah's office and he's like, we see Peter in his other job then. So technically he's got the pizza job, he's got uni, he's got school, and then he's also got the photography job. How are you gonna manage that? That's 4 things. You know what I mean? I don't know where
Man should
I
just
said, you
pick
know what I mean.
something and stick to it.
you know what I mean again. But that's 4 things that he's doing, and he still can't make enough money to pay the rent.
It's because his attention is so split.
Hmm.
And that he only wants pictures of Spider-Man.
You don't realise till you break it down though. You're like, hang on, photography, Spider-Man, college, like even uni on its own, man. Managing all them things. The thing is, I've kind of been through that myself, because this year I've had to manage uni, I've had to manage YouTube, I've had to manage my other job, and then obviously manage all the other stuff that comes along, and it's been impossible. So I've had to.
You being Spider-Man.
Yeah, but I can sympathise with the character because I know what he's going through. I know what it's like to deal with so many things and have so many pressures. That's what I was talking about earlier. Having all those things, you end up like breaking down. Like you can't focus on that many things at once. So like I've had to like take a break from uni and like sort everything out so that I can manage it. And that's really what Spider-Man should have done, to be honest.
I mean, he did. He did. Like halfway through the film, he does, right? He stops being Spider-Man.
And then he stops in number 3 as
crime
well.
is on
In number 3, he stops being Spider-Man. And every time we get this like sung montage in like every Sam Raimi movie. You know, the raindrops are falling on my head.
Yeah.
And then we get emo Spider-Man. Isn't that
Emo
literally like the
Spider-Man is my
same
favourite
scene?
Spider-Man.
Isn't it like the same scene like in Spider-Man 2 and 3? Doesn't he do the same thing? He throws the suit away and then he just goes and does his own thing and then comes back to the suit again.
Yeah.
With a different montage. Oh man, emo Spider-Man when he's jumping on the chairs. If we do Spider-Man 3, we're gonna rip it apart. But
goddamn loop.
If we do Spider-Man 3, we're gonna be laughing our head off.
Me for a goddamn loop.
We should do the whole Spider-Man.
So...
We should do every Spider-Man movie ever.
It was so funny. Like, it just came out of nowhere. If you didn't know it was coming, you were like, pow, emo Spider-Man.
Well, that's why it's become such a meme. You know what's also become a meme?
Doing this awful dance.
You know what's also become a meme,
like
George? Pay me rent. Have you seen that meme? Pay me rent.
Yeah.
They just stick his head on everyone. Pay me rent. I know I said George hasn't really had a line in this podcast. Really, he's just bouncing off me. I think that's kind of working.
Because you keep not letting me talk, you goddamn.
I got to get through all the scenes though, George, because I got about 4 pages here. But then I'm gonna let you get onto your special effects, because I think special effects should be an afterthought. We talk about the story first. That's the reason I'm doing it. But feel free to pitch in wherever. So then Jonah says he's going to be fired unless he can get pictures of Spider-Man. And then after that, we see him arriving. Yeah, it is. He comes in, he's like, "You're fired."
No, not in this one.
He does, but then he gives him his job back later.
That's the pizza guy. The pizza guy says that.
No. First, the pizza guy fires him for being a couple of seconds late, and then Jonah says he's fired as soon as he arrives. But I think he manages to swing a deal with Jonah, and he offers him some pictures towards the end of the film, and then he rehires him.
No, it's not towards the end. It's literally he
maybe right after. Yeah, maybe
because he needs the money. He says, he goes, "You're fired," and then he pulls out the picture of Spider-Man and tells him.
How do they not get suspicious that he's getting all these pictures of Spider-Man? Like this web shooter who can swing all around town, and suddenly he's always there with the camera. Bang on. Yeah, I know. You just imagine him climbing up everything to get these pictures. And some of the angles that they're at.
That in Andrew Garfield, right?
No, I don't think so. Because I don't think he takes pictures like
camera.
that. He sets up the camera to catch the lizard. Not take pictures of himself. He also has
the camera. The entire process is pretty much the same.
You think about it though, with that business head on him, he's literally come up with that. He's like, "Hang on, I'm Spider-Man. How can I make money out of this without robbing banks?" He's like, "Oh, I'll just take pictures of myself in different locations and send them to the paper that hates me." So how can he not make enough money to pay the bills when he's that smart that he's thought that idea?
Because he doesn't like the.
Oh yeah, number one is a wrestler, isn't he? He makes money that way.
They don't like the idea. At the end, he doesn't like the idea of them villainizing him, which is why he doesn't sell pictures. Which is why he says Spider-Man won't post me anymore. That is.
Well, what's funny in this movie as well is towards the end, I was going to talk about it, but Jonah gets his hands on the costume and they think Spider-Man's dead, don't they? And then he's like, "Oh, I wish Spider-Man was here to save the city or something." He's like, "Oh, he's a hero," and the funniest thing is, I was watching Spider-Man 2.1, George. And in that version, he actually puts a suit on and he's swinging around the office like that with a scar on his mouth pretending to be Spider-Man. I don't know whether you've seen it, but it's in the 2.1 extended cut. It's hilarious. He's literally jumping on the table going, "Spider-Man." You've not seen that though, have you? But it is funny. You should go. I suggest you go back and watch that.
I've seen the screenshot of it.
What's Alfie talking about? Laser beam skins. Right. And then I said his uni professor has one arm. It was for foreshadowing lizard, but I think that might have just been a bad camera angle. We'll never know.
It's a bad camera angle.
We'll never know.
Got 2 arms. He's got 2 arms.
Maybe he was missing a leg. Maybe that's what it was.
I'm missing any part of him, you dumbass.
I think it's just, I'm just looking for Easter eggs, that's why. I wish I could go back and find the scene. When I next rewatch it, I'll just send you a picture of what I mean. Okay, so the next bit of the movie, it's Pete's birthday. Doesn't he have a birthday party in every movie?
I don't know if it's every movie. But
oh man, I've just had a flashback to Spider-Man 1 where he's on the ceiling and
stuck to the ceiling.
Is it he needs a wee or there's blood dripping from his arm? One of them. And he's trying not to get it on the Green Goblin. That's another, hilarious scene. There's so many good scenes in Spider-Man 1, we have to do it. But yeah, he arrives at his birthday party, and MJ and Harry are there to celebrate with him, where they discuss Harry's latest funded project with Professor Octavius.
Dr. Octavius.
Professor Octavius. And he allows Peter the opportunity to meet Doc Ock. So literally, they've just thought, how can we get Pete to meet Doc Ock?
How do we get the villain in?
Oh yeah, I know what we'll do. We'll just have another birthday party like in number 1. We'll get Harry in and we'll say, I'm funding this project and you want to come and meet the guy.
Yeah.
What a coinkydink.
What a coinkydink.
How convenient. How convenient that Harry happens to know
Just
Doc Ock.
plot
And he happens to be at the birthday party. The thing is, the pace in this movie is actually really good, to be fair. It's quite slow, but it's just a nice pacing, I feel. I should know. I've watched it like 3 times in the last 2 weeks because preparing for this podcast.
You can't remember the professor's got 2 damn legs and 2 damn arms.
Yeah, I swear, George, it looks like he has 1 arm in one of the scenes. Prove me wrong.
You dumb. You dumb.
So Harry's still suffering the loss of his father and says to Peter, be honest, if you knew who Spider-Man was, would you tell me? And then you see in his face, like, he just doesn't even react, does he? He doesn't know what to say. And then we get a conversation with Aunt May. And then I put, which auntie do you prefer in the Spider-Man movies? But I think we're going to get onto that later.
Yeah, we can do. I'll write it down so we don't forget.
And then we get a little, we have a little conversation about Uncle Ben. And then we get a flashback in our head to the loss of Uncle Ben and his quote, great power comes great responsibility. Or that's what I got anyway. There was no flashback in the film, it's just in my head. Like, that's what I thought of. You know, when you think about Uncle Ben, that's what you think of. I also think about the superhero movies Uncle Ben. You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen the superhero movie?
Yeah, I think so, actually. A long time ago.
That version of Uncle Ben's really funny. It just so happens that everything I've seen, George has not seen any of it, man. We need to get him watching more movies. You can see that they both really like each other, but don't admit it. This is Pete and MJ, this scene. I just add context to that. It's not Peter and Doc Ock.
Peter and Harry.
Yeah, that was going to happen in Spider-Man 4, but never happened. Nah, kidding. Harry was gonna steal Mary Jane from
He's gonna romance.
Yeah, so they both really like each other, but don't admit it.
Spider-Man does. Him and Harry are best friends.
You know what's funny though, George? In this scene where she's talking to Peter, and you can see they really like each other, and it's building. She doesn't tell him that she's got a boyfriend in that scene, or I don't think she mentions it.
She never mentions it.
She mentions it later. I think anyway. I could be wrong, but
he doesn't even mention it. He sees her with her after he misses the.
It's quite confusing because a lot of the scenes in this movie are quite similar. So when you think back to it, you get a bit confused, and it's like that with the whole trilogy, really, because a lot of them. It's like Groundhog Day. So they don't admit it, but I feel like she has a suspicion. Can't speak today. She has a suspicion that he's someone. You know, that he's someone special. I think she is very suspicious that he is Spider-Man. As I said, like, they already kissed in number 1.
I don't think she's ever suspicious that she's Spider-Man. I think she's suspicious that he's not telling her he loves her.
Yeah, you can always kind of tell, can't you, by, like, the chemistry and stuff that you have for someone. You know what I mean? Like, I said it again. You know what I mean? Yeah, you see it a lot. And Kirsten Dunst as well. She's hot, man. Hope Abby's not watching, because Abby's gonna be like, "You're talking about my girl." We're talking about movie
5 minutes ago.
You haven't watched Spider-Man. You're uncultured. Who's not watched Spider-Man? Alfie, get out of the chat, mate. You don't deserve that red S, that red S on. Right. Okay. So then we get Peter arriving home, where his landlord's asking for rent. Pay me rent. Infamous meme I wrote.
Pay me rent.
when we see Peter's flat again.
And his daughter clearly likes her.
Yeah, she likes him as well. Keeps bringing him cake and stuff, and he doesn't make a move. The way that guy treats his daughter as well, gets us to do everything.
It's really funny. I like, it's such a. like a what's the word? A cliche.
Like a 50s sort of cliche. And then we get a sense that he doesn't have the perfect life again. You know what I mean? Like it's basically, it's like he's living in a slum, but it kind of gives you a sense of what what life as a university student is like, but like over exaggerated massively. Like all the walls have all the paint peeling and are all grey and there's all cobwebs everywhere. You know what I mean? Said it again. You know what I mean? He could have just stayed at home with his aunt and helped her pay the rent there.
Yeah.
And then she wouldn't have got kicked out of her house.
He can then. Well, it's because he wants to be Spiderman now. Like he wants to be able to switch between.
That makes sense.
Without having to worry, right? I guess that's.
But yeah, it's like this over exaggerated, like a proper shithole, basically. But it really works. But I can't imagine him doing that again with any other superhero movies of this day and age.
I mean, they probably will if they stop. Like, Black Panther kind of was, right, a little bit.
What do you mean, George? You mean like how they went to the like flats and stuff and seen T'Challa?
Yeah. That was like.
Is it? What's his name now?
Picture at the top online,
when we see Killmonger as a kid in the flats, but like this is even worse. Like, you know, like all the paint's peeling off and everything. You can see that he doesn't have the perfect life at all, and that's kind of what being a university student's like. Like you struggle for money and stuff. You know what I mean? Why do I keep saying that? You struggle for money and you get put in these like student flats that are horrible sometimes. I mean, ours was pretty good. I mean, George's ceiling was falling down and stuff, but that's another matter. But overall, ours was quite modern and.
I still nearly had to pay for that as well, even though it clearly wasn't my fault. God damn it!
How can I say it's your fault, George? How can you break the ceiling? George been being Spiderman, climbing on the ceiling.
Like handprints on the wall.
Handprints.
And like I'd taken because when I first moved on, I took pictures anyway. I was like, well, this is when I first moved in. Look at the dates.
Yeah, because you lived in a lot of uni flats.
That's a tip, everybody. When you go to university, take pictures of your accommodation when you first move.
Well, have you ever lived in like a grotty flat like this at uni? What was your other accommodations like?
Accommodation. First one was perfect. There was never anything near that, but people definitely have. I
think where we went to uni, the accommodations are pretty good, but in some places they can be quite like shady and not the best places to live. And I think especially, you know, in 2002, I can't imagine the university accommodations being that good, to be honest.
Well, the thing is, right? Like it's like Manhattan, right? So land is expensive anyway. It's the same in London. I'm assuming there are some pretty bad.
Exactly. Yeah. I think if you did study in London, you'd have to find a place like that because you don't really get much money, do you? Because the economy in London really expensive.
You get like a couple.
Yeah, a bit extra, but
whatever, like maybe 1,000.
It's expensive. So that's what I'm kind of getting into. It's like it's showing you what it's like to be an adult, basically, because he's an older Spider-Man. He's got all these responsibilities. He's struggling to pay the bills. He's living in a crappy flat. He can't afford the rent. You know what I'm saying? We don't really get to see that as much in the new one.
I do well know what you are saying, good sir.
You know what I mean? I'll say it again.
I do know what you're saying.
And then we have the first meeting with Doc Ock, when he echoes the line, "Smart but lazy." And I've always used this line. I remember saying this to George a few years ago when I was talking about me and George being at uni. Like, we're smart but lazy.
But like the thing is, like he's obviously like taking it from the teacher's words, which makes sense in that context.
Yeah.
But like when you meet someone, you should never say they're smart and lazy. That's just like poor communication skills.
That's something Dan would say to us.
Like it proves. Yeah, absolutely. Like, Andrew.
I don't know. I've always liked Andrew. Like even when I was doing my masters, George, and like I was struggling to find ideas. He never said like, "Oh, you're lazy," or whatever. He's always been really supportive. But I think, damn, as a tutor would say that. But I really like this university professor in this movie.
Yeah,
he seems like a good professor.
Seems like a real human. Yeah,
like he knows his stuff.
So he like
a real human.
So as like, yeah, he makes it up by like when he's talking about like resonance and sonic frequencies and stuff about when he's talking about nuclear fusion and fission and stuff.
Yeah, like later in the
It's
movie,
very clear that
he's always the one to put up his hand, isn't he? He's like the teacher's pet.
Yeah.
Like everything he says is he just chucks his hand up and he's like, "Oh yeah, nuclear fusion." And he's like, "Very good, Peter." And then you see like how intelligent it really is when he gives his full attention to his work. Like he's actually really intelligent. And when he turns up to class, that was the main thing. It wasn't that he was stupid. It was just he would never turn up on time and he'd miss a lot of classes really.
Because he's juggling all this stuff, which is something you shouldn't do. Pick on like two.
That's really what I got though when watching it back, and I never really noticed it when I was a kid. Like it didn't stick out as much, but I can kind of sympathise with it now. So I know I keep going over it, but like it just every little bit of the movie, it's always like he's trying to take on too much, and I think that's why he keeps having these like breakdowns, and that's why he has to go to the doctors.
It's like a gradual decline,
and that's why he has to keep going to the doctors and stuff, isn't it? You know what I mean? Because he goes to the doctor, doesn't he? He's like, "Oh, I keep having these dreams. I'm Spiderman," and then he goes, "Oh no, it's my friend's dream."
His web's not working, right?
Yeah, his webs are not working. That's also like another like adult joke, isn't it? My webs aren't working.
Yeah, I've got a friend. I've got a friend.
I've got a friend, and his webs aren't working properly.
Got a friend, and I can't stick to walls. But yeah, like. So it's like a gradual decline, and you see like the pressure mounting on him as it goes on and goes.
And like I say, as a kid, you don't notice because this is like a film for all generations, really. Yeah. It's a bit more adult than the recent Spider-Man, but it was still portrayed as a kids' movie. You know, it was like PG, wasn't it? So it was something you could watch with your parents. So then we get the first meet with Doc Ock, and he echoes the lines. Smart but lazy, and he has a speech about intelligence being a gift, which is used for the good of mankind, which he says earlier. So it makes the film fit nicely together because they have this line twice in two different contexts. One when it's Peter and Professor, and one when it's Peter, and one when it's Spider-Man and Dr. Octopus. You know what I mean? So he's having that. It's like a duality. He's having the same conversation twice, and it makes the film mesh together well. Because that's why he kind of changes his mind. He sees at the end that it is Peter, and he's got this connection with him, and he sees a bit of himself in Peter, and then he's like, "What am I doing?" And he says the line back to him. He's like, "Intelligence should be used for the good of mankind." At the end, so he has dinner with.
Now jump in that river and die.
So he has dinner with him, and you get a sense that he's a nice guy. You know, he loves his wife. He loves his work. It's hard to see him as a villain at that point. Like, you kind of get to know the character. You get to like him.
Yeah, I think that's the entire point they did that. But you need to know he has this flip side, right?
Yeah. So he gets Peter into poetry.
You know that it's not him.
And he's a romantic. You know. It's kind of a shame later on when his wife dies. You can definitely see that it's not him. As you just said, because the inhibitor's gone, he doesn't even react. At that point, barely reacts to his wife dying.
That's when he like snaps. That's when he fully snaps.
Yeah, and we know from that scene that he really loves his wife. So for him to just stand there and just carry on with what he's doing and barely react, you know.
And it's like the real crime would not be finishing what I've started. It's something you go through grief. It's like denial, right?
He also says that line as well. Peter echoes it back again. Because they have like this 5-minute dialogue with a lot of different lines, and Peter says to get what you want you have to go slow and steady, and you don't always get what you want. So again, that's kind of saying to Peter, divide your attention up, slow and steady, you know. Are you getting that, George? Because you've gone quiet again.
Yeah, I'm getting it. I'm just thinking.
I just imagine you just on your phone, not even listening, just completely bored out your brain.
Dude, we've been doing this for an hour and 15 minutes, and we're like 4 scenes into the goddamn movie. Let's speed up a bit.
What's good, George, is I did this like last week when we were supposed to do the podcast, and you bloody cancelled on me. So I got to an hour in, I did like 7 scenes, and then today I thought I'd finish it off and get the rest of the scenes in, but then I thought, you know what? It's going to make the podcast 4 hours long. So what I decided to do was I decided just to pick 3 or 4 scenes towards the end of the film. So it is going to get a bit quicker, don't worry. But we're not short on time, are we? I don't think there's any rush. This is our only stream of the day, George. So
it's 10:30, and I'm hungry.
It's our only stream, George. Come on, don't be like that. Don't worry about the time. People have been waiting for this podcast for like 3 weeks as well. So let's not be stingy on the time.
They'd be in chatting up.
There is people in chat.
Yeah,
Alfie said, alright, so Peter's on his way to Mary Jane. He's on his way to the show. When a car chase takes place, we see Peter do a flip over a car, and 2 kids approach him and say, "How did you do that?" And he says, "Eat your vegetables, eat your spinach."
Eat your greens.
And to which one of them says, "That's what my mum always says, and I never believed her." I love it. I love that scene, George. That's just amazing.
No, miners, we're not streaming again today.
It's when the kid says, "Oh, my mum always says that, and I never believed her." My mum always tells me to eat my greens.
I never eat my greens.
Again, that's like reaching out to the kids. That's reaching out to all the kids watching, and their parents can watch it and be like, "Yeah, I told you to eat your vegetables. Spider-Man eats his vegetables." They basically put that in to do a solid for the parents.
Definitely.
A police car flips and Spidey webs it up, saving the people nearby.
Crushing you.
Yeah, and we get to see.
Not just at this point, but a lot of points in the film, you see him being like this sex icon to all these women. Like, "Oh, take me with you, take me with you."
Yeah, but then under the mask he's like this nerdy guy who's clumsy and basically you, George, really. Under the mask, nerdy little dweeb.
I don't know what you mean. I am not Spider-Man. I am not Spider-Man.
You know what? It's quite funny because in the new Spider-Man, he's trying to like tell her, isn't he? And then she's like, "Oh, you're Spider-Man."
Yeah.
But that's for another video. This is the first point, apart from the start when he's delivering pizza, that we actually get to see Spider-Man in action. And this is like an hour in. And he's taking down the criminals.
It's about, because I've got the timings.
For a Spider-Man movie, there's not much Spider-Man in this film.
25 minutes in.
Have you realised that, George? For a Spider-Man movie, there's not much Spider-Man. Which is weird, because it's still a brilliant movie.
It's about half an hour in when he like starts to have trouble.
I think what makes it so good is the fact that it's still building the character. Like, we got this character in number 1, and they want to develop it more. This is like 6 years later, so you know they're trying to flesh out the character more. I think that's what makes it good, because I think in a lot of superhero movies they just skip all these details, you know, just to get out a movie and just to make it quicker for the story. You know what I mean? Like in the recent Doctor Who, I was very underwhelmed because like they'd have these like plot MacGuffins where everything would be solved in one swoop, and there was no story to the characters. The characters weren't developed. Like, you had the Daleks all flooding into a TARDIS just as a quick way to end the bloody fight scene, which is not what you want. You want the tension.
It's not so bad now. It's not as bad now. It's sort of faded away a little bit from that. But yeah, there are always plot devices. People call it like Ex Machina, where something will come in and save you.
But this is nice because there's not much of that. There's not much of that, and when it does happen, it's just to move the story forward, and it doesn't move it forward so quick that you feel like you're missing out on stuff. It's like it's a very honest movie in the way it's portrayed, I think.
In whatever film, like whatever Avengers film it is, where they're all protecting like this button. Move the bloody button. You
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, these idiots, man. The thing. Move the thing. That's all you got to do.
I'm gonna try and think of another movie where it just jump cuts to like the action. Misses stuff. It can work. It can work. A lot of the times it does work. But some movies, you really want that character development. And I think that's the reason.
In the superhero standalones, they don't do that.
That's the reason.
Like a co-op.
Yeah, that's the reason why number 3 failed. Because this movie is perfect paced. Doesn't have as much going on in terms of like, it's got one like really nice villain. Not, I say nice villain. It's got one villain that's kind of believable, and the story's focused on him and Spider-Man. It's not like 4 or 5 villains, and in Spider-Man 3, it does feel like that. It feels like it's jumping points because you're trying to fit everything in. You know what I mean? You 1 minute you cut into Venom, cut into Sandman.
Fitting into one movie. If you don't edit it right, it doesn't work.
So like to go from this movie to Spider-Man 3, is such. They're two different concepts, and if they would have went for what they were going for in the beginning and split it up into like they're planning like 5 of these movies. There's supposed to be 5 in the original.
They're smushed into 3.
In the original saga.
Because Tobey Maguire, he only signed up for 3 movies, right?
No, it was actually the investors and the stakeholders wanted him to put Venom in. It was supposed to be a Sandman movie, which I think if they did that, it probably would have worked better if they saved Venom for number 4.
I mean, even if it was just Venom.
I think Venom would have been a solid.
Venom, it's great.
Would have been a solid point.
Just Venom.
I think that is a really good depiction of Venom, though. I'm not sure about the Eddie Brock character, but the Venom, the symbiote looks really cool.
Yeah.
Again, the Eddie Brock character, I don't like that guy in Spider-Man 3. Like Tom Hardy's Venom is like, you just like,
I love Tom Hardy.
You like the character. Tom Hardy is a really good actor. I'm not sure about him in this new Capone movie though, because all he does is piss and shit the bed, basically.
I haven't seen it.
It's on Netflix. So yeah,
was Tom Hardy the one that played? Was it I Am Legend away? Not I Am Legend.
I Am Legend.
The Cray twins, isn't he? Doesn't he play the Cray twins?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that not Tom Hardy?
He's been in so many good movies.
One of my favourite.
What I love about that film is he's playing 2 characters, but he does it perfectly. Like, he's playing 2 different people. Like, how many actors can do that? Especially a young actor.
Got very different.
There's some really good scenes in that film as well.
Personalities. There are like in Glass, he plays multiple characters, right?
In Glass as well. I've not actually seen Glass, but that's
No, not Tom Hardy.
What's his name? Now?
Dr. X.
Yeah, but what's his name?
Mr. X.
What's his name?
Octopus.
What's the name? The character, Mr. Octopus.
MacGyver. No.
We can't go on with the podcast. Have we thought of this? Macbeth. McSandwich. Chicken McSandwich.
McAvoy.
Yeah, James McAvoy.
James
James McSandwich. Right, let's carry on anyway. So he's outside the theatre. Mysterio. Well, he's set up to be Mysterio. It doesn't let him in. He's actually 5 minutes late and it doesn't let him in.
Here.
Yeah, you know, this is like scene 4.
God damn it.
You know, I'm actually talking through these.
Yeah.
I'm talking through these slower than the actual film. It gets quicker. It gets quicker. Okay, so we're outside the theatre, and then we get does whatever a spider can, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. And you see MJ and her partner kissing, and you see Peter's disappointment.
Then he disappears in a puff of smoke and throws the suit away.
It kind of sucks though. Like, they don't give him any breaks in these films, do they? Like, he gets fired like 4 times in this film. He has to go to the doctor because his webs aren't working. He sees MJ almost stolen away from him.
My friend's webs.
He gets MJ stolen away from him. He's not given any breaks, man. He almost fails university. He's living in a crappy flat.
That's the reason.
Yeah. That's life. That's what they say. Flying high in April, shut down in May. That's the copyright strike. And let's talk about the CGI on Doc's arms then, George.
What, instead of carrying on this?
No, I'm still going to carry it on, but this is what I've written down as the next point. Because I think I was watching, and I just wrote down little points in between my my long script. So, like, on the word page, I've just got Doc Ock's arm.
So, his arms are majoritively real. They're puppeted by people wearing green screen suits. It's only when
I think I've read that those arms were £100. That suit was £100 in weight.
They said they're stupidly heavy.
That's heavy, man.
They had a person on each arm, controlling each arm.
Jesus.
So heavy, one person each arm.
It's amazing that you don't see any of them. I wonder if you see them in any frames.
It's because they're blue. They're blue suited up. It's quite easy to wipe.
Green morph
They're
suits.
like-
Imagine watching that being filmed, George. We just four men walking behind you in morph suits, and you have to keep a straight face. Oh my god.
I mean, the thing is, right? They 3D scanned them. Got my phone on my foot. They 3D scanned. So they could have.
You know what you need, George? Some
so
extra
they could have,
arms, then you won't drop your phone.
They could have photorealistic CGI. They had like all the surface texture and the surface.
But again, like back then,
stuff, like all the paint.
for like a film in the 2000s, those arms are so well done.
They are directly 3D printed or 3D scanned and like from the actual puppeteer and stuff. So the animation is quite easy. It's just like you can either hand animate it, or I think what they did was simulations, but I'm not really sure. I didn't look into like the.
I think, as you say, it's not the CGI that makes it good. It's the fact that they haven't, you know, they've done effects that make sense.
It's not overly.
Yeah,
So,
it's not overly
like,
filled with effects.
there-
Some movies they do so many effects, and then they end up
Wars,
becoming really bad effects.
Oh, the thing is,
This
like,
movie
most
doesn't
of the Marvel
overdo it.
Films are filmed on sound stages, right? They're filmed on blue screens or green screens, and that's.
But these
It
days,
makes sense
like,
because they've got powers, but I hate it. Like, there's not many people that do like actual props, and when you do, you can tell, and that's when you.
yeah, and in this day and age, it is that, and I think that's why it stands up. It stands up to time because it's realistic. It's like an honest depiction, you know.
That's why I quite like horror movies, because a lot of horror movies
The world looks the way it's supposed to
practical
look.
props.
When Spiderman gets injured, he gets injured. I mean, on that picture, you see him pulling the train, and his suit's got a massive tear down it. You know, his suit is ripping apart. That's what I want to see. You do get to see it sometimes, like, you know, in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, I was watching that last night, he gets proper beaten up by Bucky. You know, he almost dies. So, like, that's the kind of thing I want to see, and they do get better at it, but sometimes superhero movies can be like that, where you just see this perfect suit. I think at the end of the film,
that's the point. They've moved away from realism. Realism. That was a word that was difficult to say. That I didn't think it would be.
he must have
They've
like
gone away
5
from
of those
realism
suits, though.
to, like, superpower.
This is the only issue. He must have like 5 of those suits, because I think when he comes back in the second act of the film, the suit's repaired itself. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, he's the one that made it, so it makes sense. That
Yeah,
he can
just
make
sew it up,
right?
yeah. That making of the suits, that's one of our favourite scenes. We should definitely talk about that if we do Spider-Man 1. You can see I'm invested in these movies, because every time I pick the movie, these podcasts go on for a considerable amount of time. I mean, what was it? 3 weeks ago?
Suit.
Was it 3 weeks?
Dumped the suit.
No, I don't think we got to that point yet, George. Let me just say something. 3 weeks ago, we was talking about Pat Morita's life, and I spoke about that for about 4 hours.
Yeah, and that nearly killed me off. No, like.
Oh, don't make me laugh. So next we get to the bank vault scene. So these are just the scenes where I've wrote. There's like 4 or 5 scenes that are important, integral to the movie, and that stand out. So the bank vault scene, where we got Aunt May and Peter in the bank. Was it like she's trying to get a free toaster because he doesn't do the deal? And then he's like, no, you can only do that if you get the deal.
Yeah, and it's always in small print.
Hmm.
You have to deposit $300 or whatever.
That's definitely a thing, though. It's always the way, man. I always walk past a sign, like when I go walking around where I live. No, it's Carcraft, man, and it says 3,000 in huge letters. And then you look to the left, and it says up to in really tiny letters.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, 3,000 off every car. That's what it says, 3,000 off every car. You look to the left, in tiny little writing, it just says up to. And the 3,000's like that, and the up to's like that. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. But when he's with Aunt May, and Doc Ock is taking up the building, Doc Ock kidnaps like 10 people in this film. Mary Jane, Aunt May, Spidey. He kidnaps everyone.
Are digital doubles. A lot of them are digital doubles, and this is the first time you'll see digital doubles in a film that isn't the Matrix.
But again, this is like Spidey, well, Peter not getting any luck because Aunt May basically threw off a building Like a 90-year-old
Picked
woman.
on by an umbrella.
It's like a 90-year-old woman.
funny.
I think that's one point where the CGI might be a
And then she
bit.
just slowly slides down.
I think that's
it.
one point where the CGI might be a bit bad. I think it's when Doc Ock's on top of the building. I think that's the only problem
The only
with the
time that
CG.
I've noticed that the CGI was bad was the digi doubles don't look great on the train scene, and when he's carrying Mary Jane away, the physics don't quite look right on her. But she's just a green screen comp, but it just doesn't look like it's grabbing her right.
But yeah, he
That's
manages
the
to
only one
save
without
Aunt May though,
rendering
doesn't he?
standing out.
He swings down and grabs her. You know.
Snap in half.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he can save Aunt May, and then in Andrew Garfield's, he just swings the web. You just see this slow motion web just going. Because that's brilliant filmmaking.
He doesn't get bitten by the spider, does he? In the other one.
Yeah, he does. He does in Andrew Garfield's. I don't think we see him get bit in Tom Holland's. But in Andrew Garfield's, he does.
Solution, right? He makes a solution.
But like, I've seen that for years. I've seen that being mentioned where Andrew Garfield doesn't even swoop down. Because if that was Tobey Maguire's, he would swoop down like he does to catch Aunt May. He just waits for the web to catch her. Like, why wouldn't you jump down past the rocks and stuff? There is a lot of debris, but
The thing is, it's different styles of Spider-Man, right? Each Spider-Man's different. Like,
I think that might be
Holland,
why The
yeah.
Amazing Spider-Man 2 failed. I think it's because of how gritty that scene is.
I just thought it was really funny.
To kill Gwen, I think
Just the donk
that
on the back
hurts
of
the
the end
movie.
really
Because,
got me, like,
yeah, but how does that progress
like-
the story? I know at the end, he's like, what have I done? Like, Gwen's dead and it's basically because of me, and he stops being Spider-Man. And then 2
is,
seconds
in the
later,
movie
he's Spider-Man
before-
again.
In the movie before,
They do the same thing.
He
Yeah.
kills her dad.
They do the same thing.
Right?
Like, her dad dies, and he says, stay away from her. And then
And
in
he
this
goes-
one,
and
he
then
goes
he
back
saves-
to her, but also stops seeing her, but she won't stop seeing him. And then she dies, and then the same thing happens again. But it's 2 seconds later, and then he's Spider-Man again. I love the end of that movie. It is really sad, though. But if you think about it in terms of this trilogy, it's like half of a movie where he stops being Spider-Man, and in that, it's like 2 seconds at the end of the film. Like, girlfriend dies. Oh, stop being Spider-Man. 1 week later.
In Crocodile, better go save the world. Oh man, pacing in films is something that's really difficult to get right.
Yeah, but I feel like this pacing, as I said, it's perfect. It's like
It's perfect for this style of movie. Yeah.
that's why the film never gets boring. Like, it is quite a slow movie, but the payoff for those big scenes, the train scene, the end of the movie, like, they're such big payoffs as a fan to see on the big screen. Like, I think those are literally ripped from the comic book pages, like the train scene, and you know, just some of these iconic scenes. They're just such a big payoff, and it makes you want to watch the film again and again and again. And that's always the way. Normally, with me, it's just one scene in the movie. If it's really good, I will rewatch it, and I will love that film forever. But it's normally only one scene. This has several. Yep. Just keep saying yep.
Yep. Yep.
It's funny how, like, Doc Ock as well gets his ability. You know, he's got his arms, and what's the first thing he does? He goes and robs a bank. Whereas, you know, good old Spidey's just taking pictures of himself to make money.
Thing is,
He's not in
he needs
control.
the money, but he's like, oh, Oscorp won't give me the money again. So then it's like the little voice in his head is like, rob the bank, rob the
But
bank.
then he's like, I need more
And
money,
it'll
isn't
be
he?
a
Later
crime
on.
if I didn't.
He's like, it's not enough.
No.
And that's why he kidnaps Spidey. Oh, he needs Trinium. That's what it is, Trinium.
Yeah.
That's a cool name, by the way.
Ripped straight from the Matrix. Trinity.
So yeah, he stops being Spider-Man, and he chucks his suit off in the bin, which is also from a comic book, I think, comic book page, iconic comic book scene, and we just see him walking away from his suit in the pitch black alley. It's quite sad, but I think that also happens in number 3. We've seen a lot of
happens in like every.
we've seen a lot of reoccurring themes, yeah. And then he saves a child from a burning building, which I think happens in number 1. But once he saves that child, he realizes that he needs to be Spider-Man because there was another person in the building that died because he wasn't Spider-Man. Because if Spider-Man was there, he would have been able to save more than one person. Because he was being Peter Parker and not Spider-Man in that instance. Someone died. So then he goes and puts on the suit again. But that also shows, like, even if he didn't have...
He doesn't put the suit on till he falls off a building and hits his back and it's like, my back, my back.
Again, that happens in number 1, doesn't it, as well? Doesn't that happen in number 1 where he, like, slams into the billboard? This one he falls onto the car. So again, a similar theme keeps reoccurring. It's like the same template, isn't it? Essentially.
And it's like after that when Mary Jane asks if he loves her or not. Like it's basically the next scene.
But it is slightly different because in number 1 he's in the burning building, but he's Spider-Man. And in this one, he's Peter Parker, and he's not using any abilities there, so it does show that without the suit, like in Tom Holland's Spider-Man, when Iron Man says, if you're not...
What are you about the suit?
If you're not good enough without the suit, then you shouldn't put the suit on. You shouldn't have the suit. So we see that he is like a genuine hero, even without those abilities. He would still go out of his way to save that person. So that's who he is, and he realizes that in that scene.
Because of Uncle Ben, right? It was because, like just after, I think actually might have been before this, just before the burning building, he tells Aunt May about what happened and how it's his fault that Uncle Ben died, or his fault, even though it's not. But it's the fact that weighs on him that makes him be Spider-Man, right? It's that emotional. Like,
they get back to
everything.
Uncle Ben's death always echoes throughout the whole trilogy. In number 3, they discuss it again, don't they?
Yeah, you get a flashback.
And that is one of the most. That is still one of the most iconic Spider-Man scenes. Like, great power comes great responsibility. Everyone always remembers that. That's always the line that everyone remembers. So after that, so he saves the child from a burning building.
Do you love me or not?
No, I've put he steals the suit from Jonah because Jonah's wearing it. Because I was watching 2.1. So I've skipped a lot of bits here, but if you want to jump in and talk about some stuff before I get to the other bits, then you can.
Well, it's Jameson's got the suit. Then it's Peter confesses to Aunt May. Then it's the burning building. And it's Peter and Aunt May in the backyard when he's talking with the kid.
To be honest, I feel like the way I prepare for these podcasts is completely wrong because I just write a whole script of everything that's happening in the film and then talk about it all the way through. What I should really do next time, talk about why we like the movie, have specific points, and then talk about specific scenes. But to be honest, it has kind of worked because the way me and George talk about things, we go off on tangents anyway, and we end up discussing a load of topics. But this ends up being the central thing. I don't know how it works, but we've basically been winging the last 8 weeks of podcasts, and somehow still done out relatively decent. Professional.
So he gets his suit back, and then he's on the train.
It's really scaring me, man, seeing myself in that train scene. I'm like, it's so bad that it's good.
Yeah.
It's just the way you've cut the face. It's the way you've cut the face out, and I've got two fringes. I've got 2 fringes.
Yeah, it's 2 fringes. It is because I just stuck even your hair on it.
You know how long it took me to make the one with me and you? About an hour. to get those faces matching. And mine.
Copy your face.
And the thing is, the way I put my eyes and my mouth on Tobey Maguire there, like that is actually my eyes and my mouth. It still looks like Tobey Maguire.
I know.
Like it just looks like a weird face morph of Tobey Maguire. It looks like Tobey Maguire had a stroke. But your face
really
is perfect. I don't know what it is. You just done really well. I think it's the glasses. Because Doc Ock has these black glasses, man, which you should definitely get yourself a pair of them. If you cosplayed as that, it would just work. And just could see it happening.
I've got to do the flamingo first.
How's that coming along anyway?
Train. I haven't started it. He's on the train.
Yeah, I'm at the train scene as
Catches
well.
the train.
We've already talked about this,
Catches the
but
train.
the suspense in this moment, like, I think this is like a 10-minute scene. The way you see the buildings ripping apart, and he's like really stretching, and again his suit's tearing up, like, it's just so good.
It's like, it's not a 10-minute scene, it's a 15-minute scene.
But he keeps swinging webs, doesn't he? He does like 10 webs, and again, Tom Holland does this with the bow. He's like, it must be like 20 webs. That shows how strong his webs are, though, because they are actually slowing down the train, not fast enough in that moment, but they are working. When he does like 20 webs, it does start to slow down. Think of how much the train weighs.
The webs look like. Have you noticed what the webs look like?
What?
Hot glue. They're literally strands of hot glue.
They look really good though. I really like the way they look. I like the fact that things are.
It's just hot glue.
I like the fact that things are so bold that they just catch your eye, like the suit, the webs. It's all really bold and it just looks amazing. Really, I like it. And what was I saying?
That train scene.
So think of how heavy the train is, George. The speed it's going at.
88% of that train is CG.
The speed the train's going at. Imagine this: the buildings slowing down that train. I think, I don't know, what was it? Mythbusters or something.
Probably on par with actual spiderwebs.
I don't know whether it was like comic book Mythbusting or whatever. It's some kind of channel on YouTube, but I think they discussed this, like how Spider-Man stopped that train. They've also done videos on how heavy Thor's hammer is and stuff, and I think I can't remember what they said, but as you say, I think it is like
hella strong.
Hella strong, yeah. That's a
spiderwebs are like the
good save, George.
Tensile strong.
Good save.
Spiderwebs are like the most tensilely strong material in nature. They can hold a lot of weight in one direction, but not another, right? So that works for this works. As I was saying, that train scene, there is no over-rail train in Manhattan. So they went to Chicago and filmed a lot of the clean plates in Chicago, and a lot of the footage you see is just Chicago instead of Manhattan. When they're fighting on the train, all of that is CG. The arms, the octopus in that are CG, but they've been weighted with like, so it looks more gravitationally like inclined and stuff. But like you can tell when he's like catching the people after he throws them that they are digi-doubles, and it's really obvious. But you won't notice that unless you pause it like I did. So it's like, oh wait, those are very clearly digital doubles, and pause it to look at them.
I didn't notice.
No, these kind of things don't take away from the movie because there are places where it doesn't matter if they're real or not.
I think the scene inside the train is so perfectly filmed. The music, the way that the public stick up for him, and again say like, if you want to get to him, you got to go through us. It shows how much they love Spider-Man. Even though Jonah's putting all this stuff in the paper, how he's a menace and stuff, they know that
no one buys it. Yeah,
he's a good person, and they all stick up for him. And when they put their arms to catch him, you know, that guy there who looks like George. When he puts his arms out and they all put their arm out, it's like 10 arms catching Spider-Man. It's like they've got his back now. They want to do something for him because he's been saving him for so long. And then you get the sense that, or I guess he gets the sense in the movie, that what he's doing is actually making a difference and it's helping people, and the city actually cares about him being Spider-Man, cares about what he's doing. And then they give him his mask back, and they say they're not going to tell anyone, because that's always the thing that every superhero is always conscious of, is their identity. I know Iron Man flipped down on its head because he was like, oh, I am Iron Man, but every superhero doesn't want people to find out who they are.
The thing was, Iron Man is, like Tony Stark himself, is a huge person in that universe, right? So it doesn't matter if he'd be like, oh yes, I am Iron Man. Like, they're just two mergings of like.
The worst thing that Tony Stark did is when he revealed his address. He just doxed himself. But yeah, they all say, and one of them goes, "Oh, he's old enough to be my son," and then
he's just a kid.
He's just a kid, and they all, they all help him out. And then the kid comes along and gives him his mask back.
Oh, that's cute.
But like, that almost brings a tear to your eye. Like, that is the perfect scene.
It is.
And again, it's like, it's something you don't normally see in superhero movies, because instead of the superhero saving everyone, he has saved them, but they're kind of like helping him at the same time. So the public's helping him. So it flips it.
I mean,
It's a different dynamic.
We're talking about right. So let's talk about that in terms of the Avengers and the entire nation that they dropped because of Ultron. And like because of that, that is how Black Panther then becomes Black Panther, right? Because the explosion of the thing, like they're at a court case and it explodes, and King, what's his face, like dies and gives him the ring to become Black Panther. Like it's the opposite, because like even though like a lot of the times in like the Avengers they've made the problem.
So the public doesn't like them, but the public
particularly love
in this Spider-Man, you know, they really care about him.
Yeah.
Imagine 20 hours about Spider-Man. The good thing is this content. I don't know how I said content then. Content. It's content, mate. Well, this content actually fits in really well with my Spider-Man playthrough. Next week we'll be watching Tomb Raider, the original Tomb Raider film.
Oh, I love that. That film is bad but good. You know.
I love those films. I haven't watched them for so long, and it's about time I did. So I'm definitely down to do a Tomb Raider podcast.
Straight after our Indiana Jones.
How weird is the channel becoming, man? If you flick through these Shedcast episodes, we got like old school Indiana Jones games from like the last 200 years, and then we flipped to a Spider-Man podcast.
We don't have any sort of.
I think that's what makes it work, though, because sometimes things are too planned and too like structured.
Yeah.
With me and you, it's kind of like some things are, and some things are just like, oh, why don't we do a Spider-Man podcast? That sounds like a good idea. 3 days later.
Yeah, I know. It does feel that way. So like you look like you don't give a crap when you hold it. You don't give a crap when you hold the train. It's because I'm because you haven't got a pose.
I'm hella henchman.
You don't have any with your mouth.
It's also the fact. It's also the fact that George is really clipping the wrong images. You don't have any with your mouth open.
There's no picture of me screaming.
What a shame George couldn't find any pictures with my mouth open. I know exactly what would happen with that picture in Photoshop.
What do you mean you can't eat the entire McDonald's menu in one bite?
Someone would be editing this monster into something else.
Yes, they would.
I'm probably
so
not.
After the train. After the train. That's when Harry learns.
George, I'm supposed to be doing the scenes, mate.
Yeah, but you're taking literally years.
I'm taking that long.
We're near the end now. It's fine. We can speed through it.
So next, kidnapping Spider-Man. We see Pete and MJ in a restaurant, and Doc Ock comes in, throws a car at him. Why does he throw the car?
Okay.
He almost kills Peter Parker, the person he's supposed to be kidnapping. Well, he kidnaps Mary Jane, doesn't he?
Because it's not him in control, right? Because he's not.
But that's such a stupid thing to do. Because if he kills Mary Jane, he's got nothing to barter with to get Spider-Man, has he?
But Spider-Man doesn't know. He's specifically appealing to Peter Parker.
Well, to get Peter.
And to him, Peter Parker's weakness was Mary Jane.
Yeah, because he says, give me Spider-Man or I'm going to kill Mary Jane.
Yeah.
It's weird that they haven't really done.
I don't want to say Sarah Jane. I meant Mary Jane. Sarah Jane's a very different TV show.
That would have been pretty good, though.
Yeah.
I'm stealing Sarah Jane.
The Doctor's companion, Sarah Jane.
Bring me Spider-Man. And the Doctor turns up in the TARDIS. And Doc Ock is just standing above the TARDIS control panel with like 10 arms. So he kidnaps Spider-Man after that. After he throws a car at Peter Parker, almost killing him. You know, throws it like directly at their faces.
If it hadn't been for Spidey senses, he would have died.
It's Spidey tingle.
He's got no issues with his tingles. He might have problems with his webs, but no tingles.
And then he
sorry, his mate, his friend.
Yeah, and then he takes him to Harry, doesn't he? A kidnapped Spider-Man, all crumpled up with like barbed wire or whatever. And then
out of nowhere.
And then Harry realizes that he's Spider-Man.
And then he has like a sort of split personality disorder where he then like throws a knife at a mirror because he can hear William Dafoe.
Yeah, but first he talks to Harry and he's like, "Oh, they got MJ," because Harry kind of likes MJ as well. I think everyone in this franchise just wants to fuck MJ.
Wants to bang MJ. Well, she's like supposed to be like this superstar, right? She's in a Broadway show or whatever. She's famous.
I think she was like one of the hottest females in like the 2000s or something. To be honest, wasn't she in like Titanic or something? Or was that somebody else? Am I thinking of somebody else?
That's Kate Winslet, you absolute idiot.
Yeah, but Kirsten Dunst, like, you know, it's pretty hot.
Your man's cheating on you with a picture of Kirsten Dunst.
A picture of Kirsten Dunst. George, how can you not think Kirsten Dunst is hot?
She looked really weird at the start. Did you not notice that? Like her head was a little bit too short. Like it looked like the aspect ratio was off. It didn't quite look human.
It's probably a body double. Oh, I got a sneeze.
Yeah, that's right. Digi double for the sitting in their house on a birthday scene. You know, those are very dangerous. You need to use stunt doubles for that.
In between that, I think I've got he's jumping across buildings and he talks to the child helping Aunt May packing away, and he talks about being a fan of Spider-Man. But I think this is completely in the wrong order because I think that's before.
It is. That was before he goes
I'll throw that in anyway. We'll throw it in. It looks like we're just rewriting the script but adding random crap in here. Even though it is what happens in the film.
Wait, the order's wrong. You've completely got the order wrong.
No, George, because now I'm on to the finale. So, yeah. And then we can go into special effects and all the, you know, facts about Spider-Man.
Special effects load, man. I've already spunked that load on.
We can go into it in more detail, George. Otherwise,
right,
what I've really done is I've just gone through
talked about the
scenes, the plot. I just gone through the plot.
You chatting pure shit for hours.
All I've done is discuss the plot so far. So, which anyone who's already watched Spider-Man 2 will already know.
I'm having a meltdown. This man is dumb. This man's the kind of man that would attach 4 goddamn octopus arms to his back for no fucking reason. That's this man right here.
I've been coming to Boston to kidnap you, mate. Build a giant ball in your back garden.
Car at me.
Yeah, build a giant ball in your back garden.
This orbits the sun.
A snowball. So the finale with the orb, Doc Ock finds out the Spider-Man.
Into the pissing river.
I can't swim, George. That one go very well.
I'm not dying a monster.
Yeah, that's kind of funny. We don't really see him do any of that, do we? Like he doesn't gasp for a breath or anything underwater. He just slowly sinks without plane.
He just sinks.
Unless he's supposedly supposed to be already dead at that point, but
nah, they wouldn't let him do like actual like that entire scene is CG because
why are these octopus legs so smart but they can't bloody swim and they're not waterproof? Why can't he just octopus up?
Magnetic proof.
On
against the water. Oh, we're moving now.
Don't octopuses live in water? What the frick? Why can't he just swim up to the top? Wouldn't that just mean not knowing how octopuses work?
That would make too much sense. Man's got to drown with his orb.
Well, there's no orb on top of him when he's drowning. It's underneath him. That's sinking.
Yeah, but it's because they're so heavy, right? Because they're heavy, they're like pulling him down.
Oh yeah, he's made of metal. It pulls metal in. That makes sense. Why didn't I think of that earlier?
No, they're not. They're specifically made to not be magnetic, right? He says it at the start.
Oh. Okay. So we could have swam out.
Non-magnetic. Well, yeah, but I think they're not waterproof because Mum was never expecting to be thrown into a fucking river.
Yeah. It was his idea to put it in the river, though.
Yes.
You know.
Anyway, to stop it.
He could have just used his 4 arms and just whacked him into the sky.
Give it a whacking.
That will work, but still. Or Spider-Man.
Basketball with a big ball.
What should have happened, George? What should have happened? This Spider-Man should have webbed his forelegs, yeah? He could have grabbed the ball with the legs. Yeah, he should have grabbed the ball with the legs. Spider-Man swings up, webs him by the waist, and flings him into the space.
It dunks on the river. I'm so mad. In this entire film, they did not show any of him taking it down like an AT-AT, bro. All he had to do was web the legs. He could have had him wrapped up in the webs. Easy, man. Easy.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Like,
but that might be the
down
point.
Scott Lang is by just wrapping his legs.
Yeah. The thing is, though, those metal arms are supposed to be very strong. But, I mean, the webs can stop a train at like 100 miles an hour.
Oh, the train,
But they can't stop a 4-arm man. Metal legs.
Oh, damn it.
George, I don't like that we've just broke the film, man. Just ruining the film for me. Next time I watch it, I'm going to think
honestly,
of that.
the film was broken to begin with. If the entire plot revolved around a man sticking arms to himself, we got issues here.
Imagine if he gave him. Imagine if he gave himself an extra something else.
They call me Octo Dick. They call me Octodong. 8 dongs, baby.
What they should have done is gone into what his dream was and what his life purpose was, and his research.
They never mention it.
Yeah, they just say, he's important. He does this.
They even even at the start of the film, they just throw Peter in like, "Oh, you're a hero," and like you don't learn that at any point in any of the other ones.
They don't. Yeah, they don't discuss what science he's into and why he's creating this giant ball of trinium, like what it's supposed to do. You know.
Sustainable energy. Oh, okay. Build a nuclear reactor in the middle of a fucking city. That also blew my mind.
Isn't he supposed to be dead? Like when they're cutting off his arms as well. They're trying to cut off his arms, aren't they? And then the arms come to life and just kill them all.
That's such a spooky scene. Like imagine that.
I like that.
That is where Sam Raimi's like horror.
When I think about that, I always see my sticker book because that's the really cool looking stickers. You know the sticker book, they just use the scenes and do them in like separate bits. So yeah, he gives a speech about being brilliant but lazy, and he asks Doc Ock for help, and then Doc Ock risks his life to save the day. So then you don't feel as bad.
The orb into the river.
You don't feel. He kind of redeems himself, doesn't he? Because he's sacrificed his life. And he's realised what's happening. He's realised that these things have been controlling him. It's not who he is.
He's never been in control of his own body, right?
Exactly. That's why I say he's such a realistic villain, because he's not in control. The arms are in control.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But he's he's attached some metal arms to himself, and he can't control himself anymore. He's gone.
Can't control himself, mate. He's whapping his arms about like nobody's business.
And he says,
I'm never looking at this film the same way again. Like halfway through the film, I was like, "Oh wait, why did he even bother attach arms to himself in the first place? The pervert. He just wanted some hentai stuff going on. That's all."
He'd have to add some grooves in the arms. You once. He doesn't realise what I said.
He just got fleshlights on the end of his claws.
You once spoke to me about intelligence to be used as a good for mankind.
So why have you attached these dildos to your arms, Doc Ock? Doc Ock. There we go. That's a
God, what have you done, man? This is a serious podcast.
We're rolling in the money.
It's a serious podcast, man.
We said it first.
Why have we gone down this wormhole? And why is there a giant picture of me in the chat? Why is Caleb James Robot picture of the shed with Spiderman? Oh, you broke me, George. God's sake. Yeah. I'm just about to finish the plot. I'm just about to finish the plot for the movie, and you've completely ruined the whole podcast, man. Alright, I'm gonna finish. Let's get serious again, George.
Oh man.
No more talking about Dr. Octopus, man.
We own the rights to that though. If any porn producers want to come through and give us the royalties. Oh, god damn.
Just compose ourselves, man. I love how realistic these Spider-Man movies are. I mean, I'm reading this in third person. Even though I wrote to myself. Oh. How he takes the battle damage, and you can see the tear. In the final scenes, Spidey really takes some beatings. God, no, like you have to just what you just said.
Octopus.
Oh, George, this is my favourite movie of all time. My favourite childhood movie, and you're bloody ruining it, man. I'm never talking to you.
Am I ruining it or making it better?
I'm going to block you after this podcast.
Oh, god damn.
You motherfucker, George.
If someone wants to clip Doc Octopus and put that on TikTok, we'll take 50% of the proceeds. Oh, I've got a headache. I'm laughing so hard.
I was not supposed to laugh when I was reading that out when I said Spider-Man really takes some beatings. What I mean is, you know, Doc. I can't say his name properly again, really, because I'm just thinking about what you just said.
Mr. Octopus.
Doc Ock
Mr. Octopus
really throws him around. You know, he gets the crap beat out of him basically in all these films. Stop laughing, George. Let me finish the plot.
I can't help it. No.
Spider-Man takes some beatings, but still manages to save the day. And then I put, is Doc really dead?
Is Doc really evil? All these things? The answer to is no, probably.
No, I don't think he is. It's just the arms, just the octopuses.
I don't think he is.
You know, those arms are up to some dodgy stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sam Raimi's coming back to direct Doctor Strange. And after that, I put let's talk about Kirsten Dunst.
Sam Raimi as a director.
Yeah, I like him as a director. The funny thing is, George, before the podcast, you said you hated him as a director.
No, I don't hate him as a director.
He changed his mind.
I don't like Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 is the worst.
Yeah, but nobody likes Spider-Man 3, George. I can finally get back onto the Streamlabs page now.
Horror.
Oh man, you
like him
really
as a
took it out of me, George.
Director.
But yeah, he's directing Doctor Strange 2. And then I think they might be bringing Tobey Maguire into that movie. And then, yeah, we should see Tobey Maguire also in Spider-Man 3. And Dr. Octopus. Doc Ock is supposed to be coming back. So, I reckon that he's not really dead in that scene. I think that's where they're going to pull Doc Ock from when he's in the water. I think probably a crack in time or a wormhole. Yeah, either that or he's going to come from another universe. So, I think there's going to be a wormhole that's going to suck him in. You know, and then he's going to land in Tom Holland's
Dr. Cock's going to get sucked into a hole.
Or what it could be is another version of that scene where Dr. Octopus actually succeeds and the Trinium pulls everything in and that breaks the multiverse. And that's why there's a tear in reality.
I don't know why they made it.
They're saying Wanda's going to do it.
When it's clearly a sun.
They're saying Wanda's doing it, but it could be anyone that causes this. Maybe he does that and then he falls into another realm or another section of the multiverse and meets up with the other villains like Electro, and then they find a way to get to, you know, Tom Holland's universe.
I just think it's going to be really interesting how they do put it all together.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting how they bring these villains in, because, you know, he is supposedly supposed to be dead. And at what point are these Spider-Man going to meet? How long are they going to be in the film for? It's such an interesting thing to talk about.
If they do not do the pointing their fingers at each other meme, what is the fucking point, honestly?
Yeah, I was actually thinking that. Like,
if they haven't done this specifically for that meme, if that is not the reason they are making this movie, then I don't want any part of it.
I don't think that's the reason they're making the movie, George. Let me just get my other...
Well, I don't want to watch it now. They should only...
Let me just get my other...
only make that movie for
Let me just get my other 65 pages of information which I printed off before the printer broke.
Right, I'm gonna end the stream.
Shut up, George. I'll let you do some talking before I get into them.
CGI. My face.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about Kirsten Dunst, but we did mention her earlier.
So, this is one of the most flawless executions of CGI in the early 2000s I've seen.
Yep.
The only one that I can think of that is similar is The Matrix Reloaded, which was the year before.
I can't wait for Matrix 4.
Head replacements of Agent Smith. That is the only thing they did.
This is basically all I bring George in for, is to talk about the CGI things, and then I just go over the plot. And, I do not know how we've managed to get to. I do not know how we've managed to get to Dr. Coctopus in this podcast, but that just shows like me and George just go on these random tangents, and it just I don't know.
It was your fault for saying he changed another part of his body, man. That's all you. It's all on you. I just have the brains to think.
I know what I'm saying. I said, I don't think I put it like that, George. I was just reading through the plot, and you've done it into your own thing.
No. No, what happened was
you should definitely make a cock. I was gonna say comic book, and I was a cocking book, a cock book. You should make a comic book.
It's like a pop-up book.
You should make a comic book called Dr. Coctopus.
It's definitely been done, man. No one's missed that joke before.
Come on, he's searching up, George. You imagine your search history.
Private browsing, sergeant browsing, private browsing.
No, get back to the CGI, George. I'm just saying, I don't know how we managed to get to these random things, man. The last podcast, we talked about gaming for like 4 hours, and then talked about depression for the other half of the stream.
It gets to a point where the energy like runs weird.
Yeah. It's like, when you're half asleep and you get that feeling about being drunk. It's like when you get through a 2-hour podcast and you're like quite lethargic, and then you just start spouting random shit.
Yep, that's exactly what's happened. Yeah, it's a lot of either digi doubles for the train scene. Whenever people would really be in danger. I
realise that a lot of the time the stuff I say doesn't sound that critical either, because I'm reading through 200 pages of content.
Like, the digi doubles are really good for the era, right? Like, it's daylight. You can't hide it in the shadows. Like, CGI in Jurassic Park, they covered it by rain because they didn't have the technology to, like, make it look good. So, the rain was a way to hide their mistakes. But they did it in full daylight. They fully pushed this. Oh, we're at a stage now where we can do digital replacements and stuff. And you see that because they've done scans of the actors' faces for the scene, specifically in the water, because it's a complete CGI scene. All of the underwater stuff is CG.
One time he ran into his wall because he was tired and made a hole.
The octopus?
Glorious.
Glorious hole.
Why does Kainem have to be the only one watching, man? The stuff that Kainem says is not helping us be professional podcasters, man. He's spouting random crap in the chat. We've already said some random stuff. We don't need you helping us out, Kainem. Making it worse.
So what I wrote. These are my thoughts.
Hang on, George. George, hang on 1 second. Echo! Bedroom light on. I can't read my bloody script, man.
My thoughts and takeaways from this. A early 2000 film, the CGI is really advanced. I can't tell that there is any unless you pause it, really. I don't notice any defects apart from the train passengers when they put them on the web. And he interacts with MJ when he catches it. No, the year before this was The Matrix Reloaded. So I think that's where they got the idea for the scans and stuff. They get placements.
Just got a couple more pages of stuff to get through.
How about I go jump off a cliff?
Just just a couple.
So the train scene in particular was one they started on immediately because they knew that they wouldn't have time to do it otherwise. Mm-hmm. The entire scene is clips from Chicago, and they had a camera attached to some trains to get like the feel of it. And a lot of the clean plates are that you see in the window, like as footage is going past, is Chicago rather than Manhattan.
I was just thinking,
the
George.
Train was.
Not this has anything to do with what you're saying, but I feel like our podcast is like a parody of movie podcasts because they have all this really like insightful, critical stuff, and the best that we come up with is Dr. Octopus. Carry on, George. So we're at the train.
Yeah, the entire train is CG. Like a lot of it. Like they have a set. They built a set. And it's on rockers, but it's on a blue screen, so all the plates are...
Are you telling me that they didn't put Tobey Maguire in front of a train moving at 100 miles an hour, George?
They did. I'm in front of a train, but the train was a set on a rocker, and he was on, like, just sat in front of it, going... like that for a while.
So what did they do? Shrink him down, then?
Oh, no. There was a full-size train set. They took the train, and they just like... decommissioned train and like put it on a soundstage on a rocker, and then they put like background from Chicago.
Mm-hmm. You know how we was talking about earlier, how Alfred Molina and Doc Ock is like a really good villain, and he's got a lot of depth to him. Well, Alfred Molina, when he first sat down with Sam Raimi, he wasn't sure if he actually was a serious contender for the part, as he hadn't really done anything like superhero movies before. He hadn't done anything like Spider-Man 2. And although he was interested...
Indiana Jones.
What? Did he?
He was in Indiana Jones, I think.
Was he?
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he plays... Carry on talking, I'll double check that what I've said is right, because I don't want to be spouting lies, but I think he was in
we just start making stuff up for the podcast. Oh, you know, Tom Maguire was in that film. Yeah, man, he was in Titanic, man. He was in
Return of the Dr. Octopus.
That was Spider-Man 4. That was not Spider-Man
That was
4.
why it was cancelled.
Right, so he claims that he did have some reservations about the role. Namely, he was worried that the character wouldn't have any depth and would be a mindless villain, which... You know, Sam Raimi has done his best to make sure that isn't the case. Even though he kind of is a mindless villain because he's not got a mind of his own. He's being controlled by octopus arms. But, like, as a villain, he makes sense because, you know, as we say, he's being controlled by his mechanical arms. And also, the fact that at the end... Is he? That's a pretty cool fact. So when
Raiders, sorry, he's in Raiders.
He's not the guy... who helps Indy throughout the whole film, is he?
No, that's Griff Rhys-Jones, I
think. Well, yeah, and you can see you can see at the end of the film as well. We get to see like the character's real personality, so that's what makes him more interesting of a character. Most villains only have one. You know, they only have one state of mind, only one personality trait. That's just a rule, you know, rule everything, just be bad. Caleb, do not keep putting Dr. Octopus in the chat. Well, I'm trying to be serious, man. You've ruined this whole podcast, George. I just want to let you know. You've ruined this whole podcast, right? You've done no research, George. All you've done is one research on senior in the train and said Dr. Octopus and fucked the whole thing up. Thanks a lot, George.
You're welcome.
So Molina was drawn to the character due to his research. He found that every incarnation of Doc Ock had a weird and intelligent sense of humour. However, he wasn't sure how the character would be portrayed. It took until he began shooting to see that Sam Raimi really did care about the man behind the villain. This allowed Alfred to explore Otto Octavius in depth. Mm-hmm. I think he's a brilliant actor.
Yeah, he is. And a lot.
I've not seen him in much, so maybe because I wasn't looking for him.
I need a piss. Can we hurry this up?
No, it's only like 60 pages left. I think you go for a wee now.
Man.
Go for a wee now.
I'll be back.
Because we could be here for a while. Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever the spider can. Well, I'm Shedford, so how can I mess stuff up? Hey, Wolf. Guys, how many likes we on? 10, 5, 0. Probably 0. I swear, the people who don't tune into these streams, they do be missing some real gems. Hey, Dubsy. I know it was Caden. Caught me off guard, man. You can't be doing that. I prefer the other one, though, of me being, like, catching the train. I don't like the zoomed in one. Stuff again. Ghost, you missed some stuff, man. You missed some gems. You've been missing some real gems, Ghost. George just had to go and take a quick coctopus, but he's back now. You know how bad your graphics are, George.
That's because I've got the reason why it looks like that is because I've got it like.
You look like it looks like your video's being filmed on a potato, and I mean like 1080p.
That's what I've done.
Oh, you created a potato phone.
It's got it. Well, yeah, no, because I've got it running. There's turn the opacity down so I can see that the TV line.
George, don't rush me, man. I got a lot to talk about here. It's one of my all-time favourite movies. You got to admit, George, it has been fun. And like 2 weeks ago, that podcast went on for ages.
We haven't ended up clipping Dr. Coctopus and making that like a highlight of this. What are we doing with our lives?
Yeah, I just hope that, if that goes viral, George, I'll never take us seriously again.
I'm going to see if I can find the timestamp later on and just clip it.
So this one might interest you. It's about the filming of it.
Mm-hmm.
They struggled to film Spidey's logo. So the insignia on his chest, they struggled to film it, apparently. It may surprise some readers that Sam Raimi had a hard time shooting the insignia on the front of Spider-Man's suit. This is because he didn't want his shot to cut the insignia in half. He wanted to avoid breaking the graphic on the screen as much as possible. This meant that the costume designers had to place the Spider insignia at just the right height on Tobey Maguire's chest. So it is quite high, isn't it, compared to the other logos on the other suits? I've not really noticed that.
It's before. Like near his nipples. It's like nipples, like.
Oh my god, chest. George! I hope this isn't getting into another one of these cockpus moments, mate. Bringing the nipples into it now. Raimi also had to use a wide-angle lens in order to capture all of his upper torso in medium shots without making him appear too small in the frame. Though Raimi ran into a similar problem on the first film, the costume was redesigned to appear sleeker and more vibrant in Spider-Man 2. You know, Sam Raimi, didn't he do Freddy Krueger? Or something to that level? I'm sure he did. I think he might have done Freddy Krueger. You might have to double check it, but I think he did. I know he's done some big movies. I definitely think Spider-Man 3 really tarnished his career.
Yeah, it really did.
Did you know? This is the did you know part of the podcast. Did you know that Doc Ock was supposed to be in the first movie?
Was it really?
When I say did you know, George, you're supposed to say yes or no.
Was he really? Give me more info.
So creating a movie villain is not an easy task. Luckily, Spider-Man has an entire rogues gallery of full interest in evildoers. This undoubtedly made the scripting process easier for Spider-Man 2. However, the film's producer, Lara Ziskin, says that Doc Ock was actually considered for the original Spider-Man before the first film was shot. Sam Raimi had already began designing the character.
Sam Raimi did Evil Dead, the most famous.
See, that is a big franchise. Shame, I've not watched any of those.
Evil Dead 2.
I know it's a very likeable franchise and people love that series.
Yeah, there's even a Netflix adaptation.
So Doc Ock was actually
Ash
supposed
versus
to
Evil Dead.
have teamed up with the Green Goblin to take on Spider-Man. Do you think that would have worked? Or do you think it would have ended up like Spider-Man 3?
Would have ended up with Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, because I think Doc Ock and Green Goblin are both... They're both really good
interesting
on their
characters that
own.
you can't
Yeah, you
squeeze
don't
in.
need to put them together unless it is for a Sinister Six type thing. But I think
but they should already have a backstory in a
Yeah.
different film. Otherwise,
you got to build it
there's
up
too
like
much.
the Avengers. You can't just chuck them in. That's where they went wrong. However, Sam Raimi later decided against it since the movie already had too many moving parts. The addition of Doc Ock's origin would have made the film lose its focus since the filmmakers liked the character so much and work had already been done. He was used for Spider-Man 2. Did you know Harry...
The producer in 62 films,
Oh, wow. That's a lot, man.
including Don't Breathe, Hang on, a lot of these are.
Wow. You think about it though,
Evil
George.
Dead.
Like,
Grudge.
how
He produced
how
The
many
Grudge.
movies can one person make a year? 62 films. Most producers only make like one movie a year these days. 62. Jeez.
He did.
Been busy.
He did Ash vs Evil Dead, The Grudge,
Hmm.
Don't Breathe, Poltergeist.
Doctor Strange 2
Spartacus
is
TV
going to be
series,
so
Evil Dead.
good. I can't wait. There was another director for it, wasn't there? But I don't think Marvel liked his vision for the film, so they picked Sam Raimi.
If it wasn't Taika Waititi, I don't want to know anything about it. He's my favorite director.
Not sure who it was. So one of the biggest conflicts with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy is between Harry Osborn and Peter Parker. The two grew up as best friends, but their relationship changed forever when Harry's father met his end. After the events of the first film, where the Green Goblin is taken out by the glider, Harry built up an unbridled rage for Spider-Man. This anger continued into the second film, but was supposed to be portrayed in a different way. The entire plot line was taken out because of the script. So originally, Harry put out a hit on Spider-Man's head. Apparently. So I put a bounty on him.
Makes sense.
The filmmakers chose to remove it because they found exploring the relationship dynamic between Harry and Peter more interesting, particularly because Harry believed that Peter knew how to contact Spider-Man. Although Tobey Maguire said that a recent back... Oh, that's a different... that's a different fact. Doesn't he put a hit on him, though? Because he gets Doc Ock to capture him anyway.
In the same way as they originally intended. I think by putting a hit on, he probably means he tried to actually get him assassinated by multiple people rather than just...
Okay, then, man, you should cover Willy's Wonderland. The Return of Dr. Octopus, and then
maybe next week.
episode 9, Willy's Wonderland. Okay, so the train sequence was storyboarded during the first movie as well.
Yeah, because they needed to. They literally started filming the next week after finished the first one, so it was like
Yeah, before
instantaneous.
Sam Raimi had a script for his second Spider-Man film, he knew many of the set pieces he wanted to see. In fact, the first film wasn't even complete when he had the storyboards made. Some of these storyboards were even constructed digitally. That shows how good of a director he is. Like, he really thinks about his films in advance. He's making these
Not only
decisions.
that,
The clocks,
almost
are,
every
the
scene
cogs
was
are ticking.
painted. They literally like
His attention to detail is brilliant.
compared to Tarantino, or not Tarantino.
To be fair as well, in the third
maybe
film, I
Tarantino.
don't think he wanted that many characters. It was literally the investors and other people connected to the film that pushed for it. He didn't want that because he's always focused on character building.
Like, do you know, like, who is it? Was Lucas and Tarantino? They don't storyboard. They do like 2 pictures. And that is their storyboard. Whereas with Raimi and a lot of other people, they just.
I think
straight
when a lot of people
storyboard,
think
like,
about
right.
directors, they just think they get on set, all the work's done for them, and they start piecing this movie together,
Sometimes
directing
it is. Sometimes it is.
Yeah, but I think it's directors like Sam Raimi that take the
George
time
Lucas
to,
is.
you know,
Yeah.
dig into it and really, you know. did the work. If you think about it, directing, it's an art form.
Oh, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. I've tried it because I went.
We should definitely make a film, George. A really trash. You know, when you're kids,
You
you
know I
just
would
walk
love
around with the
to.
camera in.
I would love to do physical, like actually, like effects and stuff. But it's so much money to invest when you have literally nothing in a camera.
Well, just do it like the podcast. It'll just be a trash version. It'll be funny though.
We actually could though, right?
I remember when I was a kid, and me and my
As
friends.
difficult it is.
I had a friend that lived over the road. He really liked Doctor Who, and I was into Doctor Who. And we sent a letter to the BBC. We filmed this trash thing where I was running around the neighbourhood, and I think I was a Dalek or something. I was a monster chasing, and then it was like playing the Doctor. They called it Young Doctor Who. And sent a letter to the BBC, and I think we actually heard back from the BBC, but they said, "Oh, it's a brilliant idea. We'd love to think about it in the future, but we have too many things going on."
I'd like to
a polite way of telling us to bugger off.
The BBC do reply to a lot of comments like that. Like,
it was a handwritten letter. They sent back to us.
Yeah. They care about their audience.
Bloody me, getting typecast as the villain now, man. So Doc Ock was supposed to be.
We could actually make a film. You know that, right?
Well, if we'd done the
it's not
YouTube
difficult to
house
make a
thing,
YouTube
George, we
film.
could actually work on it. You know, have
I'm
like a
kinda
little
tempted, man.
studio
I'm
in the
kinda tempted.
basement. In the basement. Ain't we like that thing, that box on Fortnite? A load of cameras in the basement.
That was how like Hammer Horror started out, right? It was just friends making films.
This is an interesting fact you'll like, George. So apparently, Dr. Coctopus was supposed to be in a love triangle with Mary Jane. I'll give you some more. I'll give you some more context. So apparently, executive producer Avi Arad says that there were many different approaches that were considered for the character of Doc Octopus. He's like 50. She's like 20.
I think that's the point. They were trying to make it so if they had gone with that route, they would have made him younger.
Well, you can do a lot with 4 tentacles, George. I'm not helping myself, man. The first approach was a very standard one. Doc Ock was simply supposed to be a mad scientist who created his wonderful energy system. The filmmakers then developed other ideas. I could just see you laughing, George, after I say an energy system. I can see the cogs working in your head, man. You've ruined this film for me.
I'm thinking, man. I'm thinking. Don't worry.
You've ruined this film for me. Developed ideas that were more out of the box.
Not anymore. He's over there on the desk.
Who? Me? I'm not on the desk, George. I'm sitting
No,
on a chair, mate.
PG-tipped monkey. PG-tipped monkey.
You didn't bring the monkey to the podcast, you asshole.
He's over there. He's there. He's stop camera.
Yeah, this hasn't been a PG podcast either, guys. I apologise for that.
You don't care anymore. I don't care. Not with the podcast.
It's not as if anyone actually watches them. One of these ideas probably would have ended up being somewhat controversial. The thought was to portray Doc Ock as a younger man who had a strong romantic interest in Mary Jane. Oh, so there's going to portray him as a younger man. So I wouldn't have been 50 dating a 20-year-old, whatever. Well, I don't think he'd been dating it. Probably just would have kidnapped her. And I don't know.
Yeah, like King Kong style, where takes him to the top of the building.
That line at the end, though, that is so good, isn't it? I don't want to die a monster.
It's really good.
I feel like you're not even in the room anymore. You just like gone to a celestial planet or something. Like your soul's just gone out your body. You're just like a robot, man.
My brain's on a different plane, man. My brain's in a different.
You're in the astral plane. So some of the feelings would be reciprocated, making Spider-Man 2 ultimately about a love triangle between the two of them and Peter Parker. So yeah, they like love triangles.
Love triangles. There you go.
After much deliberation, the idea was scrapped, saving us from what would have been. I thought that said a pretty sausage and a pretty strange film.
A sausage fest.
The thing is, George, like these facts, I haven't actually read myself, so it's quite interesting for me to read them back. But then I'm reading them back to you, and just oh yeah, man, it's bloody great, mate. I need some people to do the podcast with me that's happy to sit there and listen. See, normally it's you, George. When you speak a lot for the podcast, you just talk about CGI for like 4 hours. I'm just like, yeah, oh, it's good.
Yeah, I love CGI.
George is taking too much drugs. Do you know what my friend said BBC stands for? Oh my god. Shut up, Kanan.
We know what it is. Big black something, but we're not going to say it.
Yeah. The fire and explosions in the burning building scene were real, apparently. Even the fire and explosion scenes were real.
That's interesting.
That's very
But nowadays
interesting.
that would all be CGI or fluid effects.
Mm.
Fluid simulation is the way that people.
It
do
says the burning
gas
building
simulation
scene in
is
Spider-Man 2 was designed to be the double the size of the one in the first film.
And that's why in the game, if you don't jump,
It does look really realistic, doesn't it? Oh my god, George, you've
it's
just
something you don't really question.
you've just unlocked a memory there, because that's just took me back to my childhood playing the Spider-Man 2 game.
Well, I missed time.
And I've bought all the Spider-Man games again, so I'm going to be playing them at some point.
Out, that was my favourite part.
When George gets another PS2, he can play Spider-Man 2. We can race it like the Tomb Raider. The thing is, we're gonna be back on the Dr. Octopus memes. That's the problem. I'm never gonna be able to watch a Spider-Man film without.
This is my favourite thing we've ever come up with.
Oh, I love the
Playing
Shedcast.
the
Thanks,
instruments.
Wolf. At least someone
No,
does.
WD.
So they've physically built the set on their backlot of Universal instead of using a real life location like they had in the first film. This allowed them to have complete control of their environment. This decision to do this added to the believability of the movie. Even the flames were real.
I think some studios have like a burning place in the back of their like studio space.
Mm.
If you're gonna film a burning scene, they have like fire extinguishers and stuff.
Yeah. When I think
I
about
know
that, I
that,
just think about you. You remember in uni when we always have to be careful with the projectors and stuff because we was always told that story about one university like studio burning up because they left something in front of the projector, left it on.
That was so dumb, bro. I've never seen anything set fire. A projector,
Yeah.
they don't get hot enough. That must have been during like the fucking 60s, bro.
No, it did happen. I think it was in like 2016 or something, but I think it has to be
It's
in.
not a Blink 182
It
song, honey.
it would have to be in like certain circumstances. Like I think it was like expanding foam or something. I think it was really close to the projector.
It was a flammable expanding foam, was what they told us it was.
Yeah.
Whether it was or not, who knows? How are you, honey?
Wow, that's
Oh my
interesting.
god, I didn't even look at the time.
So this made it far more dangerous for Tobey Maguire, who actually ran out of the burning building. So the explosions were controlled as well. The practical effects geniuses used oxygen canisters that shot air at the fire, making it grow rapidly.
Very interesting.
So they basically almost killed Tobey Maguire.
I don't think they ever really killed him. It was like realism. I'm sure he knew what he was getting into. Says hey.
Oh, Doc Ock's arms are both real.
Told you.
I don't know. What are those faces, man?
Listen.
Nowadays, it seems like big budget filmmakers don't see a need for practical effects because CGI is so readily available. However, some of the most convincing action sequences have been created with a mix of practical and visual effects. An example would be
it's got a real
Ock's
arm.
mechanical arm fitted into a suit. So Alfred Molina, as well as his stunt double, was fitted with a suit that actually had these arms.
Yeah, and they weighed
And
like.
yeah, as you said, the crew
twice the weight
people
of him
would operate him.
I think they were mostly blue screen.
He
Because
could
they were
actually
quite
feel the weight against their body, but apparently that made for a complex fight.
So a lot of them are either
choreography
they
because
comp in.
it was so heavy.
They comp in a bunch of.
Tobey Maguire was afraid it would be terrible. It's quite common for studios to contractually obligate their stars to do multiple movies right from the get-go because they want to maintain cast consistently throughout their franchise. This is precisely what happened with Tobey Maguire when he was brought on to play Peter Parker / Spider-Man in Sam Raimi 2002 film.
He was constantly obligated.
Once the arrival date of Spider-Man 2 script was approaching, Maguire admitted that he had become very nervous. He wasn't sure if the project was going to be any good or not. He then claimed the first feeling he had once he read it was that of relief. Unfortunately for Maguire and the audience, it's doubtful they experienced the same feeling once the script for Spider-Man 3 rolled around. Man, I put a D in this article. Some of the scenes didn't make it into the final cut of the film. Among these scenes was a moment where J. Jonah Jameson is running around his office dressed as Spider-Man. Yeah, that's the one in the Spider-Man 2.1 cut.
Yeah, that's deleted scenes, isn't it?
Doc Ock's costume weighed £100. The suit was comprised of multiple parts. Tobey and Kirsten did most of their stunts. How many stunts did Kirsten Dunst do?
She got, when Doc Ock took her, that was her on a harness.
One stunt. I don't know, actually, probably more. The thing is, this is cutting off between 2 pages, but it starts off saying accomplishment when he pulled them off. I mean, he's talking about the arms.
Dr. Octopus is pulling people off. I pulled you off.
It was helpful for the film, mate. The quality of these podcasts, man, is going down.
It would never go. What do you mean? Oh, the hammer pulled you off.
They're so bad, they're good, George.
My name's cool, I'm made of rock.
Kirsten Dunst had the same feelings as Maguire on the matter. She dedicated to taking part in as many stunts as she possibly could, even though it was suggested that she shouldn't. Her involvement added to the realism of the film. William Dafoe surprised Alfred Molina on set. You know who William Dafoe is, George?
Yeah, William Dafoe.
William Dafoe's a brilliant actor as well.
He played the Green Goblin.
The thing is, like, in Spider-Man 3, is there really any decent actors playing the villains? There's not, is there? Compared to William Dafoe and Alfred Molina, the actors in Spider-Man 3, I've never seen him in anything. The guy who plays Venom, I don't like him.
Dubsy.
Never seen him in another film.
Which Airbender? The show or the film?
The guy who plays Sandman.
Very strong opinion.
The guy who plays Sandman, I always think is John Cena, and it's not. That's just like the John F. Kennedy effect. It's somebody else, but it looks just like John Cena. And then, then you got Harry, which James Franco's a decent actor, but is he enough for that movie? Like, if you got one good villain and then 2 terrible villains, I feel like it kind of sends in the other direction. Yeah, so William Dafoe surprised Alfred Molina on set. Secret visitor. The set visit happened while they were filming the scenes where Doc Ock gets his mechanical arms welded to his body. Molina was on set on a break, which allowed Sam Raimi to sneak William Dafoe in. Maybe those guys are like good friends or something then, or each other's were. What's your least favourite?
The Venom we're talking about is the Venom from Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, I'm talking about the actor who plays Venom. I did say earlier in the podcast, if he was listening, Caleb, I like the Venom in Spider-Man 3. I don't like the actor who plays Venom. I don't think he's supposed to be likeable though. I think Eddie Brock's supposed to be an asshole in that film. Yeah, so the set visit inspired the writers to add in a cameo for William Dafoe's Norman Osborn. This cameo I've seen at the end of Spider-Man 2.
Yes, which is when the
cliffhanger. Yep, leading into the 3rd film. You said that in the middle of the film. Do you remember who's going through the plot points? Stop looking at the time, man. Come on, George. I know you're texting.
You caught me.
I know you're texting Taff going, this man won't shut up. I know what you like, George. Like, you're still talking through the facts of the day, mate. I know exactly what you like, mate.
It's fine, we got a question and answer section with Dubsy after this, god damn it.
And we got to do best to worst Spider-Man.
It's nearly midnight, damn it.
George, come
5
on.
minutes
I'll
to midnight.
let you not do Fortnite
I've
today.
not pissing eaten. I need to eat my pizza that I've still got a fucking for.
So we're talking about Doc Ock's tricky wire work now, this is all your stuff, George. This is CGI. This is special.
Fucking wire.
And we've done a lot of that during our art career. Do you remember Merlin's wire work with the trees he made?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you ever think that was a good idea, man? What? Well, it would have been. I mean, if you watch the videos on Facebook of the professionals doing it, they look like these massive, huge, like beautiful sculptures, and Merlin's like these little tiny, like tinfoil trees. Alright, so wire work is generally quite complicated due to logistical and safety reasons. However, once everything is set up, the movement of these wires is usually pretty standard. It's up, down, and side to side. This wasn't the case whenever the filmmakers had to make the show. Doc Ock being carried by his GG arms. Oh, it says CG arm. Realistically, his giant mechanical arms would move one at a time, jolting his body in strange motions as they grasped the ground and pulled themselves forward. This precisely what the filmmakers wanted to capture. In order to do this, they not only needed to surprise Alfred Molina in the air, but also maneuver his wire work accordingly. To do this, they created a special rig that was meant to mimic this particular jarring movement. Sounds like fan fiction, man. It sounds like a page out of Dr. Cocktopus. Apparently, Rosemary Harris did her own stunts as well.
Wire work, Dr. Cock.
Apparently, Rosemary Harris did her own stunts as well. I was just thinking, who's Rosemary Harris? And that's Aunt May.
It's Aunt May.
Yeah, apparently she was 70 during this film. She looks a bit older to me. No offense if you watch him, but...
Oh dear.
I doubt she's watching. Once Harris saw that her elderly stunt double could do it, she was more than game. She had managed to convince Raimi that she was capable of flying through the air with Spider-Man herself. When you read it just sounds ridiculous, man. It's the way they write these articles. This is like a bloody... what's the company now? Like IGN article or something. Though the other actors were afraid to do their own
stunt.
Energy back. Their own stunt work. George, the energy's... It's gone some other place, man. It's gone in some weird direction. But it kind of works. I don't know. It's a bit weird, but we're rolling. We're rolling with it. Yeah, George just can't wait to go to bed. George is an old man. He's like 65 in the body of like a 23-year-old. She found it exhilarating. Apparently the first thing she said after doing it for the first time was, "Let's do it again." The way this is rolled, man. She found it... She convinced Sam Raimi that she was capable of flying through the air with Spider-Man herself. She found it exhilarating. Apparently, the first thing she said after doing it was, "Let's do it again." Apparently, Alfred Molina didn't do his own stunts. But I mean, what stunts has he got to do? I mean, there's like 4 people. He's basically like 7 people on that in that film. He gave 2 main reasons why he didn't take part in the stunt work when he didn't have to. Firstly, he said he didn't want to put any stunt person out of work. That is a good excuse, really.
That's bullshit. That's so bullshit. I love it.
But it works, though, doesn't it? It's being a nice guy. He's like, oh, you know what, mate? So I don't want to put stunt people out of work, so I can't do the stunts.
The majority of it was like CG, right? It didn't really matter.
Yeah, mate. I don't want to put stunt people out of work, mate, so, you know, can't do it.
Oh, let's go. I'm still going to eat.
He said, professionals don't take his acting roles, so why should he take jobs that they were trained to do? He said that they pay him the compliment of not putting him out of work. Therefore, he wanted to do the same out for them. Secondly, admitted that he wasn't very good at stunts. and didn't want to hurt himself or others. Although those decisions cost production more money, they kept people employed and safe. When you go into more detail, it does make sense. The hospital scene was a homage to Raimi's horror films. That's interesting.
Yeah, you can tell. You can absolutely tell. The way it's shot is completely different.
It says that Bob Mawiski, it sounds a bit like that bloody Mike Wojcinski who sent me that letter from YouTube.
Mike was out.
He also shares the same love of suspense and thrillers. This trait came in handy for one of Spider-Man 2's most intense sequences. Although the film constantly blends multiple genres, the hospital scene is easily downright horror.
Your horror, yeah.
Is there a hospital scene in Spider-Man 1 as well? I think there is.
I don't think so.
There's one in Spider-Man 3, that's the one. It was designed to be a homage to Raimi's earlier horror work, namely The Evil Dead and Army of Darkness. A camera flew through the air like Spider-Man. In order to track stunt doubles and a computer generate Spider-Man through the air, a special camera had been rigged to mimic their movements. This camera, affectionately named Spider-Cam, is that what you just said, George? Yeah. Was only used once in the first film, but the filmmakers found it so effective they brought it in on a much bigger capacity for the sequel. Well, that's the thing, right? Like,
he filmed a lot of the stuff in Chicago with
it's so complex to do those web shooting scenes and doing right. That's hard to do, man, because the actor's in movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be easier to do it on green screen, but I don't think they did.
Yeah, that's it. That's my stuff. Now we can get into the ranking of the Spider-Man characters. I'm excited. I'm prepared. I got all the energy, man. I've been up since like 8 a.m, George. I swear you had a nap midday at like 2 p.m. or something.
Haven't fucking eaten. I've got to cook a pizza after this. That's going to take
Cooking a pizza at 12. And it's not like being back at uni. Alfie's back, man. Alfie, you missed it all, man. The good thing is, George, these podcasts, we pretend to be professionals. But really, even when we put a theme in, it still goes in some random direction. It just ends up being me and you talking rubbish.
Yeah.
But that's good, because no one else is doing that.
Okay, here is my ranking for Spider-Man. Okay, out of 4 Spider-Men, because I'm inclined. Well, it's 3.
I don't think we should include Miles until he becomes part of the live action stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to give an honourable mention because I really like that film. And Miles Morales was like, that's so good. So for me, it goes New Kid on the Block.
New Kid on the Block.
Maguire, and then Garfield. Holland.
Sorry, George. I thought you was doing like Take That albums or something then, or bloody Backstreet Boys album for me. New Kid on the Block.
Old Tommy Holland. Fuck, his name's gone now. Old Spider-Man.
Hang on, who's New Kid on the Block, George? Can you just say it in English?
New Kid on the Block is bloody Tom Holland.
Because you said Tom Holland twice. You said Tom Holland for 1 and 2.
No, Tobey Maguire.
Number 2.
And third is Garfield. Because he doesn't like Mondays.
It's tough for me because, like, Tobey Maguire is like my Spider-Man, like from when I was a kid. I like all the Spider-Man. I'll always be a massive fan. You know, like when you watch films as a kid and they're always like the best film ever. It always like sticks in your head and sticks with you. So it's difficult. But I do think Tom Holland is probably the best Spider-Man because it's what we discussed earlier, with them being an amalgamation, him being an amalgamation of the clumsy Peter Parker, but also he's also cool. The right amount of coolness, the right amount of clumsiness. He's got the sense of humour, which is something they struggle to capture. There's not really much. Peter Parker in this movie is quite serious. It's kind of like I used to be, really serious about everything. He doesn't really have the sense of humour that Spider-Man should have. Like in the comics, Spider-Man's one of the characters with the most sense of humour. So it's tough, but I'd probably put Tom Holland first, and it probably second, but just second would be Tobey Maguire. But then again, if you ask me this like a year ago, before Far From Home, I'd probably put Tobey Maguire first. That's the tough thing. But I think Andrew Garfield is third, but still, he's a very good Spider-Man. And I like that they made Spider-Man cool, because I think back then, I think that was important, because they'd kind of just ruined it a couple of years before by making Spider-Man 3, so they need something to come back with. And the skateboard and everything, like, yeah, it was good, but, you know, it wasn't, like,
I think along the same line,
amazing.
for my Aunt May selection, it'd be old Aunt May, Tom Holland Aunt May, and then Garfield May.
So you think old Aunt May's the best?
Yeah.
I do quite like Andrew Garfield's Aunt May. I think she's around the right age. I think the Aunt May in this one might be too old, but then I think an older Uncle Ben's good. I think the older Uncle Ben is definitely number one, because his quotes are just iconic, and he suits that role, you know what I mean? Like, he's definitely got the grandfather father figure down. Well, uncle down. But yeah, I like the middle Aunt May, so I like Andrew Garfield's Aunt May, and then I'd probably put Tobey Maguire's in second and Tom Holland's third, because I think Tom Holland's is really young, but she's meant to be that way because at the end of the day, she's a love interest, isn't she?
Of Happy, yeah.
But that's the thing, like, aunts normally aren't like 80 when you're 20, are they really? You think about it, but she's meant to be a love interest for Happy, and also kind of Tony Stark at one point. Not really, but you know, there was chemistry, I think.
Okay, we're going to go into the question and answer.
Uncle Ben, George. We haven't done Uncle Ben.
Oh, Uncle Ben's Uncle Ben. He's always on a packet of rice. Right.
Sure. You can't do that to me. Uncle Ben, Tobey Maguire's Uncle Ben, and then obviously Andrew Garfield. There wasn't really there hasn't been an Uncle Ben in Tom Holland's Spider-Man, has there?
I don't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it.
No, there hasn't, because they didn't want to do it again, did they? They didn't want to do the killing Uncle Ben again. It's the same with Batman. They always kill Batman's parents in every film, don't they? How many times have we seen that done? You know what I mean? It's always the same scene as well, just slightly changed.
Yeah, they never really, like, with Robin, that's the first time I've seen Robin's explained, like, his backstory about it.
What about villains?
Parents being...
So, if we talk about Spider-Man 1, Amazing Spider-Man 1, and Homecoming, so we've got Green Goblin, the Lizard,
top tier,
or
second,
number 3.
No, Lizard last.
Number 3, what's number 3? The bird guy, Birdman, Batman. He did play...
Birdman.
George, he literally did...
Meet you again.
Literally,
Birdman.
he did play Birdman and Batman.
No, it's not
Vulture,
Birdman.
that's
it's
it.
The
Vulture. But he also plays Birdman and Batman. He's played Birdman, Batman, and the Vulture. Is it me, or does this guy love birds? Michael Keaton. It's supposed to come back as Batman, you know. I'm excited. So, which would be your favourite then from those Spider-Men? So you got Green Goblin, Lizard, or the Vulture?
Green Goblin second, Lizard last, and then Vulture top.
I think Green Goblin first.
Technologically advanced Vulture is.
I think Green Goblin first. I think Vulture second, and I think third would be Lizard. Which, no, that's wrong. Second's Lizard, third's Electro. And the reason I put Electro in third was because the way they did his effects in that movie, it just looked too blue. It just looked too unrealistic, and it just looked weird, man. I don't know. Have I just put Electro in third?
Probably. Done? Can we do question and answers?
I was supposed to go on to Spider-Man 2. Electro was supposed to be saved for that one. Oh well. We're going to question and answers because we're getting on for the 3 hours podcast here. And it's all down to George. It's all down to George, man. George had so much research today that it's nearly 3 hours.
I'm gonna kill you. Stubbsy, I did not play any instruments. I was taught the drums. I've forgotten all that knowledge. And Avatar: The Last Airbender. I really liked the animation by it's Nickelodeon, but it might not be.
Electro's backstory is amazing. Electro's backstory is so typical. It's such a typical. What do you call it, George? Comic book trope.
Typical villain backstory.
A comic book trope, literally. He drops his he drops his paperwork. Nobody picked it up, so then he becomes the villain. Nobody wishes happy birthday. Nobody wishes him happy birthday. He doesn't get the day off work.
Funny.
He falls in the fish tank and becomes the villain.
Well, he gets electrocuted by an electric eel.
Yeah, but the reason he becomes the villain is because no one takes any notice of him and he drops his paperwork in the lift and the woman doesn't help him pick it up. She's just like, fuck you, I'm not helping you pick your paperwork up, mate.
That's so funny. That's so, like, white beta fucking male shit right now.
And, like, he's
so
walking down the street and everyone bumps into him and stuff and doesn't care. Doesn't care about him, so he just becomes a villain.
That's so, like, cis male. I'd be like, oh.
That's always the way, though, isn't it?
Kill
It's
everybody.
Why is it always the bully that becomes the villain? Why do they make bullies out to be... I mean, not the bully. It's always the bully that becomes the villain. Why can't the bullies...
Yeah, they're like...
Why can't the
like
bullies
a
be the
snap.
villain and the bullied, you know? Because the people who are bullied are normally nice people. They don't want to do that to other people. They don't normally turn into a electric menace and killing everybody off.
Electric eel.
But it's weird as well because with
but
Electro, Spider-Man's actually the only one that took notice of him. But then he ends up trying to kill Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
What other questions have we got?
Okay.
Let's get into the questions because we're running on time here.
Well, you're like... So I really liked the animation, but the film was fucking awful. Oh my god.
What's this, Last
The
Airbender?
film was so bad.
Jordan,
The Last Airbender.
what
yeah,
ideas
sorry.
you got for the next podcast? And
Oh, yeah,
how
someone
and
give
are
us
my
some
badges
ideas.
done? Because it's been like 6 months now since I gave you those images. You're too busy painting stormtroopers.
It's been a week.
I'll pay for the badges,
2
George. I'm waiting for the badges
I know, you'll get them.
because I was gonna
I've actually been doing my jacket
reveal
more than I've
them.
been
I was
doing
gonna reveal them during the giveaway video because it might get some hype from.
Well, listen, the reason that I've been busy is I've been...
Yeah, Spider-Man wishes him happy
doing this.
birthday. No one else did. I seen that the other day. A
Yeah, I've
gorilla's
done some more to it.
lifeline.
And Watson. So that's what I've been doing instead of...
Badges. I've been doing a glass painting, but it kind of went wrong, as I said. I've been doing Lilo and Stitch for Abby, but I've had to wipe it all off, and I feel like it's got scratched now, which is really sad. Look, the Stitch has gone alright, but I've had to get rid of Lilo's colour. I had to start her again. It's not looking too bad.
You've got to pick ones that are like two-tone, right? So, especially if you've only got 2 bits of glass. That's cute.
Yeah.
Shrek. Oh, we could do a
Keyboard,
Shrek one. I'm happy to do Shrek.
All we're going to be saying is, Donkey, get out my swamp. Get out my swamp, Donkey.
What happened to you?
Happened to you, Donkey. Are we going to go back and rewatch Shrek? Oh my god, I used to love Shrek.
We're not watching Shrek.
You just said we're doing a Shrek one.
So, no, we're not doing
You just
Shrek.
literally said you'd be happy
I'm
to do
gonna
it,
end
George.
it. I'm happy to watch it. Not do a
Give people
podcast about
10 minutes, George, to ask some questions, bro.
They've been asking all the way through. I've gone through my questions. Anyone got any questions?
If we do the podcast next, are we going to do them every week or every 2 weeks? What do you reckon's best? I feel like
2 weeks
we're
is
struggling to fit them into a week because we like to take more time to prepare, and because we got so many other videos going on. Like we got the Tomb Raider series going, the Fortnite streams going, so maybe every 2 weeks. But then again, I do like making these because we do have some funny moments in a couple of years. We're going to be laughing our head off at them, so it kind of is. It is nice to do more often when we can. So I don't know. To be honest, George, we kind of winged them anyway, so we can surely manage one every week if we wanted to. I'm not sure that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure that Thursday is a good day though. I think they should be
Do
on a
Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, do it on a Monday because Abby's normally on a weekend. So, you know, if I'm sitting here doing a podcast and Abby will be in the background just laughing right off, Abby will be there, and I'll just be like, me and you will be talking about Dr. Octopus and weird stuff, man. I love Stitch. Thank you very much. I don't like your logo, Kane. I like the one where I'm Spiderman catching the train, not the one. Why is that, man? It looks like Thomas the Tank. And have you aged? Oh, that's Aunt May. I thought that was a really aged up version of George. Alright, guys, I'm going to end as well because George is getting off because he's making pizza at 12:15 because he's a freak. But we'll be back.
Some idiot wouldn't let me bloody leave, alright?
And hopefully we'll be doing Fortnite tomorrow. You know, we couldn't manage to fit it in today because me and George have ridiculous sleep schedules and we had to prepare for this. But we'll be back tomorrow. So, peace out.